everybody to how do you write hieroglyphs? Ancient Egyptian Scribes and Scribal Palettes, with also a very good chunk on literacy as well, because I forgot that I wrote about that when I wrote this paper originally. So, let's go. So when I was in graduate school, at the end of my first year and then going into my second year, one of our teachers tried to give us a project where we essentially would pick an object from our museum to make a video about it, to kind of advertise and kind of show stuff about our school. And we were absolutely the guinea pigs for this project, and not a single class has done this ever since. I loved this project because this is just totally up my alley. This is something that took that step forward to both MelissainDeNile itself and also like a little bit like my thesis, because we literally were creating stuff for social media. We these are on YouTube, like these videos that me and my I was gonna say coworkers, my fellow students made. So we had to pick an object from our museum and essentially do research on it and make a video about it, make a short video. It's only about 3 minutes long. Actually, I think less than 3 minutes. And I love this idea. I mean, this is essentially what I do for my Artifact Insight videos on my TikTok. So like my Artifact Insight videos are now, whenever I go to a museum and I see an object that I like, I make a video about it. So like that's exactly what this is. This one had more research because there was obviously a paper behind it, a presentation for my class, and then also she wanted us in this kind of one class, she made us do a book review about one of the books that we did research on this. So I did a book review about an Ancient Egyptian Scribe book, which, funny enough, there are literally none. There's literally one book. I mean, we'll say one recent book that is a well-read book, and I can tell you what it is. I gotta look it up again. But like, quite literally, there are so little books that are just focused on Scribal Palettes. This was literally the only one that I could find. And then, random story anecdote in this, I then went to a conference, and my professor appeared out of nowhere at the conference and said, "Come with me. I'm going to introduce you to the author of the book review you did." And I was like, "Okay." And she grabbed me. She literally like scared the crap out of me, grabbed me, and took me and introduced me to him. If I remember correctly, his name is Niv Alon, and he works at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. In the Egyptian department, but I cannot remember like if he's a he's got to be a curator. I can't think. He's not the head curator, but I can't remember exactly what his position is. Yeah, and she literally brought me there, introduced me, and then left me. And I was talking to this guy who's not actually that even much older than than myself, but I was literally just like, "Hello, I read your book and I did a book review on it. I really enjoyed it. Blah, 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 blah. I have a Scribal palette at the University of Memphis's museum, and I have some information about it if you would like it." And then he gave me his card, and then I ran away, and I think my professor got so pissed that I didn't talk to him longer. Was not comfortable with the whole situation, but that's how grad school works. So yeah, so I looked at this Scribal palette, and I got to touch it. I was very happy. At first I wasn't going to be able to, because as you can see from this photo, it's in a huge case with like lots of different stuff in it. So most of the time I could only like take pictures of it. But right here in this back corner, there is a mummy of a goose, and my one of the students a year ahead of me had just finished her thesis on that goose, her master's thesis, and so they needed to put it back, and they let me put it back. I was very happy. But so when this picture was taken, was essentially they needed to come in, and so they said, "Oh, Melissa, you're the grad assistant to the curator, so you can come and observe, but also, do you want to go measure your piece?" Because I discovered in our records we had 4 different measurements for this piece. So I was like, "We gonna go measure it?" And then I told the girl, I was like, "Please take some pictures of me with it." And she's like, "Okay." So I have like 4 photos of me measuring it, or fake measuring it. And then they let me put the goose back. I can talk about a lot of these objects because obviously I gave tours in here, but right over here is a loaf of bread. It's very gross, but I kind of love it. Fake cucumber, little tiny gaming pieces, a really cool ostraca, an arrowhead, a New Year's vase, a little monkey, a nice little cup. I think these are jed pillars. And what is this? What's there? Oh, a headrest. A headrest. That's what's there. But yeah, so this is a Scribal palette. We're going to talk about this later. But essentially, the Scribal palette got me really interested into Scribal palettes in general and the wide range that we have for them, and then what the role of scribes really was. So first, we're going to talk about literacy in Egypt in general, just so we can kind of get an understanding of the basis of why the role of scribes was really important. And then we will talk about what it took to be a scribe. We'll talk about this Scribal palette first, and then I'm gonna literally show you every single Scribal palette I could very easily find on the internet. And I put all the photos on this PowerPoint slide, but I'm also gonna look up on the on their museum databases, and so we can look at them and learn about them from there. So let's start going on. So literacy is defined as the ability to read and write, at least in modern terminology. Ancient peoples had a huge range of abilities, encompassing tons of different stages of reading and writing competency. These were also very heavily influenced by geographical, chronological, and societal factors. I'm going to take a break because there's an ad. Hi, Rethus. I'm going to smile for 30 minutes, or 30 seconds. I want to make sure everyone can hear the lecture. Is it Levi Jeans? Is your ad? Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to try to pause now that they alert me when the ads go on. I will try to pause for all those who aren't subscribers to listen to the lecture. So, welcome, Rethus. We are talking about literacy and scribes in ancient Egypt. So we just barely started. So you are all welcome. So literacy was heavily influenced by geographical, chronological, and societal factors. It really depends on what time period you're talking about. It really depends on where that person is living at the time. So it is generally agreed that writing became important in Egypt in the 4th millennia because it helped with administrative control. The first evidence of writing comes from the tomb Uj in Abydos in the form of simple tags on grave goods. I wrote, which you can see here, but I forgot to put it in the slide. We can look them up later if someone reminds me. So it is really, really hard to give an estimate on how many people were literate in Egypt. And most of the estimates that we have are focused on specific time periods. John Baines is mainly the person I was reading an article about this. Thank you, Rethus. That's actually very good to know. 79 is way lower than I thought that would be. That is so low. That's so low. In my opinion. I mean, at least it's over half, but that is so low in comparison. I'd have to look at a list of all the different countries and their literacy rates. I mean, yes, it's way better than 5. But I would love to see what countries are doing better than us. We can look at that up later, I think. So John Baines estimates that literacy in the Old Kingdom on average was about 1%. But we do actually have certain locations that we think had a very high literacy rate. I would assume a lot of these are closer to palaces and such. But one of the communities, Deir al-Medina, which, if y'all don't know what that is, it's a planned community near the Valley of the Kings that New Kingdom pharaohs established so that they can live really close to the valley where they are digging and decorating pharaohs' tombs. We assume that John Baines estimates that community with their workmen and their families had anywhere from 5 to 15% literacy. And that was just heightened because of the types of people that were there to work. And we can assume that there were scribes or people who at least could read or maybe even write, one or the other, because they were working on tombs and working on writing out scripts and texts and stuff. Yeah, 5 to 15% is really good. It's really good for one tiny village as well. Like, that's amazing for one tiny village. When it's hard to think of, but 1% in an entire country could mean you have an entire village with no people who are literate. That's how it really could end up, and probably ended up more often than not. So having 5 to 15% in one town is like awestruck. It's absolutely amazing. Um But I think the likelihood of that is because it was not what I would call a natural community. It is not a community that just kind of rose up out of nowhere. Those people all purposely moved there because of jobs, kind of. And there was nobody else before there as well. You're right. And then a lot of it had to do with administrative stuff, taxes, sending out, like, essentially charging all of those people to be able to get paid for their works, censuses, yeah, lots of things like that. So I would say that no matter what, anywhere that the royal palace or the royal court is going to be, the literacy rate is going to skyrocket in consideration with the entire country. We can just naturally assume that is where a lot of those people who know how to read and write, that's where they're going to be. They're going to be in places with the pharaoh and with the pharaoh's court. Temples, I think also you can assume that it would rise more for that as well. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about female scribes. We might have evidence of that, which would indicate we might have evidence that women could, but it's real small. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just like a couple seconds. But yeah, it's not, we don't have a lot of evidence if they could, but we would love to think so. Yeah, it is true, Rethus, like it would be very amazing for some man to for somebody to roll into town and say that and know that, like I don't even know if you say, oh, I can read. I don't even know if an illiterate Egyptian would really know what that means. So it's kind of like back and forth. So we can assume that the vast amount of ancient Egyptians were illiterate, but we do have some evidence of what we would call semi-literate people. So half literate, semi, not all the way. During the early Amarna period, workmen were instructed to remove the name of the god Amun from any monument. These workmen would not have been scribes. They would have just been kind of lower manual workers. But we have evidence that not only did they took the name out of Amun out of the name of Amenhotep, but they removed glyphs. Turning the page. They removed glyphs that make up the name of Amun, even when the text is not spelling that name. Yes, this might just be memorizing the glyphs. That is 100% entirely possible, but this also might have indicated that some Egyptians knew how to read certain words. They might have been able to easily spot out, well, one, I think I would hope that everyone would be able to easily spot out a king's name with a cartouche around it. So that could be possible. There's also the possibility that they were able to read certain gods' names and they would just know. But it's the whole thing, it's like, did they, it's kind of that weird thing, that did they read it or did they just know that's what it is? It's kind of one of those things that I always say where when I'm thinking about like memories of my childhood, my whole thing is, do I remember that? Or have I seen a photo of myself and I am recreating the memory in my head? Because this happens to me a lot. And so it's one of those things that's like, did they really know it and read it, or did they just memorize it? Stuff like that would be symbols probably until they... Yes, exactly. For the most part, these would appear to be symbols, and that's why art was really important in ancient Egypt, so that for those who couldn't read, it would be able to be conveyed. Yes, you're very right, Natty. There could have been somebody who could read that was pointing out certain things, but because they were taking out the glyphs for Amun that wasn't spelling Amun, that tells me that they might not have had somebody supervising, because if say the overseer knew what you were supposed to take out, they wouldn't have told them to take out glyphs that spell Amun that don't actually, or that are included in the word for Amun but don't spell Amun. So it's kind of, It's very wishy-washy, but it is a theory that we have some semi-literate people. So we do have very little evidence for female literacy. We do have some instances where the word for scribe contains a feminine ending, which is a T. So it would be Sheset instead of Shes. Yeah. Trying to remember how to spell. But it is unclear if by giving it the female ending, it means a female scribe, or something like a cosmetician, or it might mean a completely different field, because the word for scribe also means to draw. So it could have been an artist, it could have been a cosmetician, like it could have been any other occupation. The way that ancient Egyptian words work and language works is so complicated, because by just adding one letter, or not even adding a letter, it can change it from a noun to a verb. And so by adding a T, it doesn't necessarily just make it a feminine noun. It could have made it a feminine verb that is not the same verb. It's very confusing. That is a very good question, Rethus, and I absolutely have no idea. Carthage is so far away from Egypt, I have no knowledge about it. I really don't know anything about it. I would love to know. I have a feeling not, but I'm not sure. Love to learn more, but I do not know. Yeah, I do not know. Wrong time period for me. And wrong place. Stole my Go-Gurt. Hello, Iron Chef. We're talking about scribes and literacy today. So, we can assume that there were princesses, or other royal women that might have been trained in reading and writing. We do have some Scribal Palettes that are inscribed with the names of a princess. I'll show you one later. And we also do have some images of Scribal Palettes being pictured under the chair of a woman and not under the chair of a man. I've talked about this a lot with dogs, but there's an amazing article called like "What is Under My Chair?" and it's a whole analysis. Melissa can't talk. Analysis of different items that are depicted under the chairs of ancient Egyptians in these kind of stela and like offering stela or banquet scenes, and just kind of associating them with it, trying to figure out if the objects underneath have some sort of symbolism and are supposed to relate to the people. So frequently you'll like see the dog or the cat or the monkey or the person with dwarfism holding the cat or the dog or the monkey. But you'll also see like boxes, which could indicate like boxes of perfume or boxes of linen. You can see mirrors, and mirrors are very common underneath women's seats. So things like that. But we do have some images where Scribal Palettes have been seen under a female's chair and not a male's chair. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she would have the title of scribe, because the scribe would obviously, that title would have been included after her name. But it might imply that she might have been literate. I think it's like the common strip. Look at the wacky horrors of the pigeon under his chair. What a joke. Yeah, it's like that article is so funny because it's so true that there are just, you see some really random stuff just sitting underneath the chairs of all of these random ancient Egyptians, and it's really funny to me. A really good question for the final question about literacy is, were pharaohs literate? While many pharaohs have had texts that claim that they wrote this text with their own hand, we really can't confirm this. Pharaohs are very rarely depicted in a scribal seated position or writing themselves. Most scholars agree that they were probably literate, but probably not as advanced as scribes themselves. But We do have one that I will show you, that there is a pharaoh that was a scribe himself, which is pretty rare. But I'll show an image of that, either the next slide or the slide after that, and I can tell you a little bit about him. Nah, dog, I don't need to read that shit. Well, that's the other thing, is that, like, even if the pharaoh says he is writing this with his own hand, he's not writing this with his own hand. He's literally just dictating it to somebody. So, like, it could just do that. Like, it doesn't need that. Alrighty. But yeah, so if you look at this form, so this picture, this is when scripts and languages are being used in ancient Egypt. So we have hieroglyphic text is being used from the early dynastic all the way to kind of the mid-Coptic Byzantine era. Hieratic is being used a little bit earlier, and all the way as long. Then you have cursive hieroglyphs. Essentially, hieratic and cursive hieroglyphs are apparently different, and you can see them there. Abnormal hieroglyphs, which are from the Theban era. Then you have Demotic, which is just a different font. It's just a different text. Egyptian and Greek letters. Then you have Greek, Syrian, and Aramaic, which are two other scripts. But yeah, this is kind of showing that, like, hieratic and hieroglyphs have been used, and hieroglyphic script have been used all the way throughout. So here we go. Scribes in ancient Egypt. This is our probably one, there might be another one out there, but the one that I can think of. This is the one royal scribe. So this is Horemheb. He is a general and a scribe, and became a pharaoh after Tutankhamun, and Tutankhamun's predecessor. After Tutankhamun died, I took power, and then I died, and Horemheb took power. So Horemheb was a general under Tutankhamun, but we have this statue of him. This is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a absolutely beautiful statue, and it depicts him in the very typical seated scribe position with the legs crossed, and the piece of papyrus. And if you look, like, over his shoulder, I believe that there is a text here that is technically facing him that only, like, he could read. I don't think you could read it from here. But yeah, so he was the one guy we definitely know was a scribe, because he was a scribe before he became a pharaoh, because he became a pharaoh in a really weird ass way. Horemheb is also a rabbit in Animal Crossing. This is also a very famous seated scribe. This, I believe, is from the Old Kingdom, and it is located at the Louvre. I don't know what time, where this is or what time period it is, but this is 100% New Kingdom, probably Amarna period. Actually, no, I'm guaranteeing this is Amarna period and stuff. Just look at their fingers. But these are all some scribes. They're not writing anything down. They're actually just They're actually just using their reeds to, like, gather paint. Like, they're not writing anything down because they don't have any, what's it called? They don't have any papyrus with them. So, the scribe is one of the oldest professions in ancient Egypt. I would argue it is pretty much, like, the oldest. Hello, Slater! Welcome! Welcome to the lecture. We are talking about scribes in ancient Egypt. I just got it started. So the word for scribe is, I said it wrong before, it's not sheses, it's sesh. So I will show you the glyphs for that in just a second. So sesh also means to write, which is where the confusion comes in, but also, it's super common, where you have essentially a noun that means a noun that has a verb that is the same thing, just one is an occupation and one is a verb of what that occupation does. We also have a couple other words. We have a word called za'u, which is also used for scribe and to write. Specifically, a za'u kedut was a outline scribe or a draftsman. That technically is a scribe who would have worked in a tomb, and it kind of it kind of bridges the gap of both scribe and artist. There were other things. They seem to also be doing more art rather than just writing text, but they knew both, kind of. You could also become a sheshnesu, or a king's scribe, which is pretty elite. Only the elite people could really send their children to scribal school. While this is probably why the profession is so small, but there is also possibilities of fathers being scribes and them training their sons or sending their sons to scribal school as well, kind of passing down. It also seems to be a familial occupation. Boys would most likely learn to be scribes at something called an en-seba, which is called the room of, I'm now realizing it should be I think it's a en-seba, which is a house of teaching, or room of teaching. They could start apparently as young as 4 to 6 years old, which is like, again, that's when we read, but it also seems wild to do that. The school would last approximately 4 years. This could have been in the house of a tutor or at a local temple. We assume that the way that they learned was very different from how, I would say, typical modern day learning is, even though there's obviously such a range. They probably started learning by reciting literary works in a sing-song fashion, and then they would learn to write those down on ostraca or potsherds. If you don't know what an ostraca is, it is essentially a piece of limestone or a potsherd that have been discarded and are essentially trash. So they'll use them as essentially sketchbooks or scratch paper, and they'll write them on. And that's why we have so many great ostraca with amazing stories, like amazing literary story, because ostracization, I think that I'm just gonna assume that has something to do with it, where like they've been ostracized, is that like they've been cast away essentially. They're just cast off remnants of either just like huge chunks of limestone that are just like big chunks and stuff, or literal pieces of the pottery that have been broken off. Surprisingly, hieratic is probably what they would learn first, which again is not totally a cursive thing. It's not totally cursive, but it is kind of cursive, and so it's very opposite of like most kids learn how to print and then maybe you learn how to write in cursive, which a lot of kids don't learn anymore. But you kind of learn in hieratic, which granted, hieratic is the more easy out of that and hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs is very hard, but it's very hard for me to understand. It's very hard for me to understand how they learned hieratic first, because hieratic letter shapes are based on hieroglyph shapes and they are shorthand versions of them. So if you don't know what the hieroglyphic shapes are, how are you going to write in hieratic? That's kind of my thinking about it. It seems really complicated. So Iron Chef, just a fun fact, it's always going to be pottery sherds and glass shards. But that's just a very random archaeology fact. If you know anything about Minecraft, they're coming out with a archaeology update, and they said shards for when they released like stuff about it, and people got pissed, and archaeologists got pissed because we're like, it's not shards, it's sherds, and then they changed it, which is really great. It is a very funny word, I do admit, but yeah, you say pottery sherds and glass shards. So any kind of pottery that has been broken, any little piece of pottery is called a sherd, not a shard. I know, isn't that cool? I mean, I noticed it immediately. I was like, oh, they put shards. I wasn't bothered by it because I guess I was so excited about archaeology on their game in general. But yeah, I looked at it, and then I heard later that they changed it, and I was so excited that they listened, and because it did get delayed for like a year or something, so I'm really glad that they changed it. Chip break. So, the thing with hieratic, the way it's easier is you can write multiple glyphs with only dipping your reed pen in the ink like once. Like, because it is kind of cursive, you can write very fast, which makes more sense. for people learning. Scribes would usually start by memorizing and writing complete words and phrases, and they would barely ever focus on grammar. Like, that's just crazy to me again. Granted, that's sort of how I learned Ancient Egyptian myself, but it's just weird that that's kind of how it goes. Eventually, they would be converted over to papyrus, which was super expensive, so they didn't really want to waste a lot of it, but eventually they would learn how to write on papyrus. After many years of schooling, the scribes would work as apprentices to tutors, and then eventually become tutors themselves, and then work to become full-time scribes. We do have some evidence of familial scribe, that it's a familial occupation that could be passed down from son to son, father to son. So, where do scribes work? Scribes were literally essential in pretty much every industry. There was really not a single industry that didn't need a scribe, which is why scribes are the oldest profession in Egypt, and I would argue they're one of the most important in all of Egypt, really. So we have a lot of scribes that are mainly for bookkeeping and administrative tasks. These are some really great miniatures that are from the tomb of, is it Meroruka? I think it's Meroruka, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they essentially found all these models in these in this one tomb, and these models were again meant to come alive in the afterlife and help the deceased kind of with his life, his daily life in the afterlife. And so this one in particular is a grain manufacturer, and they have literally like 5 or 6 scribes here who are recording how many bags of grain are like going in. And I love these guys. These guys are like some of my favorites because of the little positions they're in, and they have like miniature little Scribal palettes. We can look at some close-up pictures of these in a little bit. Then they would have been instrumental in building and decorating of tombs, and the building and decorating of massive pyramids, and any sort of kind of, they could be considered architects essentially, because they also, as scribes, they would also learn a lot of math. It doesn't seem like we had really any mathematicians or any engineers that weren't also a scribe. Nerd Fighter, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Scribes could have also been used in the military to sort out ration requirements, manage soldiers, or record the military exploits of the king. They were needed to calculate arithmetic and geometry problems for building projects, so you couldn't really be an architect without being a scribe first. King scribes were really important because they would record communication between the king, his officials, and or other royalty. There was even a scribe from the New Kingdom named Jehudimos Tijeroi, who was asked by a general to interrogate 2 traitors and then kill them. So scribes seem to have a lot of side jobs, a lot of side gigs. Because of this wild range of tasks, you frequently find people who are labeled as scribe with titles like architect, steward, treasurer, lots and lots of different occupations of things that are closely related. Mainly things that are administrative, have to do with money, or have to do with like big building projects, things like that. This guy right here, I could probably figure out his name pretty easily, but right here is the symbol for scribe, which I'll show you in just a second. But you can see it here. This is presumably his name afterwards. And this is on an offering stela. Thank you so much, Rock Goldem, for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, driver, literally, they did so many different projects. They are so important to Egyptian life and to, making sure that everything runs smoothly in Egypt. One of the things I love is the reed pen behind the ear, which, as you can see from these 2 images, absolutely are actual things that the ancient Egyptians did. You can find 2 different images of them doing it, which is just literally amazing. So they have the word scribe above them as well, presumably maybe with their name, or maybe it might be another title to specify what type of scribe they are. So then we get the scribal equipment. Where did I go? Oh, never mind. I wasn't supposed to go there. Whoop, go back. So we also have scribes that would have worked in what we would consider libraries or archives today. The Per Ankh, or the House of Life, was often a building attached to temples or palaces. These could have been used as a training facility for other scribes, but its main function was to preserve texts and serve as a place where scribes could study older texts. We also have a place called the Per Medat, or the House of the Book. This was most likely a library or another storage place for manuscripts. This is occasionally mentioned in texts where the pharaoh will essentially like deep dive into the archives or the Per Medat, and he would make these like sensational finds in books that like inspire him, and he'll talk about it in texts. And so that's how we know about this place. We assume that this place is some sort of archives records. In my mind, this is what happened when Moses in the Prince of Egypt movie, he just goes down all of those different random hallways to find what essentially is like a history book that is just on the wall. Like, if you've ever seen that movie, that scene always confused me as a child, because I'm like, is this just a giant hallway with really long, thin halls, and then they are painting what happened like that year, which is like not what happened in ancient Egypt. But in my mind, if Moses wanted to figure out what happened to the slaves, he would go to the Per Medat to go and find records from the years prior. I think that makes a lot more sense to me. It's my geeky moment. We also have evidence that there were some smaller private libraries at places like Deir Medina, where legal deeds or copies of texts could have been held. Now we go to the next slide. Let's talk about scribal equipment. These are some of the words that a scribe would know. These are also just some of the one variation, and these are all Middle Egyptian, so I don't have any Old Egyptian versions, but many of them are still pretty similar to the day. This is also an image of me writing with the Scribal palette that my professor let me borrow for the video. I made the absolute wildest, craziest setup to get this film in this way, where I was watching it like this. It's so silly. I grabbed the thing from my car that holds with the suction cup that holds my phone when I'm like going and using GPS. I grabbed that and like attached it to like my desk, which honestly was great, but my phone was too heavy in that position, so then I had to like support it with like a bottle or something. And it was shaking like crazy, and so I had to like be really careful and cautious. But my professor let me borrow this. It came with, like, I love this Scribal palette. It's gorgeous, and it's really chunky, and it has the little pieces of the ink paste in it, which some of the replicas I've seen don't. And they had the little reed pens, and I had to chew on it to get it into an actual reed pen, to get it to write. And it took a lot of practice, but it turned out really great for the video, which I might show you guys the video at the end if you want to see it. But yeah, so we have R, which is very hard to say, but literally it is A sound and R. So R is a reed pen. Shefedu is a papyrus roll. A Geseti is a scribe's palette, and a Shesh is a Sesh. First S is no H, second S is second, it has H. So Sesh is a scribe. So scribes had a lot of different equipment. Most of them were Scribal palettes, but in the Old Kingdom we have this. We actually not that I have not been able to actually find an actual piece that has been preserved. I thought this one was real, which I believe is the same one as this. I thought this one was real. It turned out it is actually a replica from the German museum, the Berlin Museum. So I thought this was accurate, but it is not. So the cool thing is you can see here the glyph. The glyph for, I always assumed that this little thing was a person, like was something holding something. Essentially this, and you can see in the middle this like being depicted. This is a long pen holder. So I'm assuming this like is a cap that would like toss it off and such. And then a bag that would hold ink cakes. And then this little tiny 2 inkwell palette, and everything was attached with a cord, and you would hold it supposedly like this. But the weird part about this image is that he also is holding a Scribal palette. So I'm like, I don't understand why he's holding both. If not, that is him supposed to be holding just the symbol of him as a scribe, because these are not used past the Old Kingdom. And then here you can see how it's written in hieroglyphs, how it's written in, I'm going to assume this is also hieroglyphs, and I'm going to assume this is hieratic. This might be hieratic and this might be demotic, but I'm not sure. Yeah, ink cakes essentially they're just little dried little cakes. Just like watercolor. If you think of watercolors, when you see them, they're like totally dry. But yeah, so I thought this was a real one. And I've now found out it's a replica. But I don't think it's a replica of anything. I think it is just a replica. Like, I don't know if it's a replica of a actual one that has been found, or if it is just an estimation as to what these look like in real life. So I am not exactly sure. The cool thing though is that this would be worn over the shoulder. So you'd wear the pen, the pen holder on your back, kind of like a quiver, and you'd have the ink palette on the front. And if I remember correctly, there's a statue of a scribe that one of them has that, even though it's a more modern statue, it has this like over his shoulder, but I can't remember which one it is. Alrighty. So later Scribal Palettes had a slot for the reed pens and then 2 inkwells in this one like huge long piece. They could either be made out of wood, ivory, or stone. These are super easy to like hold. Yeah, kind of, Slater. These are much easier to hold with one hand while holding the reed pen and drawing, essentially. And this was also perfect to use as a ruler. Almost all of them are around the exact same length, so you could use this as a ruler to be able to, one, just draw straight lines, or to measure certain things to kind of keep it within the hierarchic scale with ancient Egypt art. They pretty much would only use black and red ink for text. It is the opposite of what most people think, in that red text would frequently, at least when you're talking about drawing in tombs, red text was used by the apprentice to draw out the original drawing, and then black text went in to correct it. So red text was not used to correct it. When we're looking at papyrus, red text was used to indicate the like title, or like a new story is starting. Or a new paragraph is starting or something. So you write a couple words in red and then they'd go back to black. The pigments for the black and red were made out of charcoal and red iron oxides. They were ground down and then mixed with a binder like Arabic gum, acacia gum. Sorry, not Arabic gum, acacia gum, to make these little dried ink cakes that you would take around with you. And the pens were super simple. They were made out of really thin dried reeds, and frequently you had to chew them up on the edges to get them to make kind of a little bit of a paintbrush. Poisonous pigments, not for writing, because they really only use the black and red. I mean, red oxide is not great. It's like a lot of iron. But I don't think I did a video, if you saw it, Nat, I did a video on my TikTok about the, about paint materials and what would be used for those. And I don't think any of those are majorly toxic. I'm trying to think what it was. I think it was malachite for green, iron for red, Egyptian blue. Yeah, that's true. They probably, because I'm sure that they were licking it and also doing that as well. All right. So the first palette, the one I'm going to go into a ton of detail on, is the palette that I did this project on. So this was a Scribal palette from the late Middle Kingdom. The cool part about this is that I was able to discover so much more about this palette. We knew very little when I kind of opened up our file about this artifact. Tea Time Cat, I think that's an entirely good possibility. I don't know how much charcoal stains, but I think it's possible. I don't know how much also licking they're doing. I just know that they had to chew. But if they had to, like, I'm not sure if they carried like a little water cup with them or something. So like they might have just been using their spit, but I mean, it's definitely possible. So, when I came upon this Scribal palette, oh, there's an ad. I'm gonna eat my chips. No, I bit my cheek. I'm going to enjoy my chewing noises for those who can hear me. It does, honestly. Everyone's here. Also, I'm dumb. I just realized that I didn't... Actually, wait, no. Did I change it? Oh no, LOL, the lecture question thing is still there. That should not have been up for the past couple streams. No, Freya, you didn't well, you missed most of it. That's okay. We're getting into the cool part anyway. You just missed the stuff about scribes and literacy. We're talking about the Scribal palettes now, so definitely watch the VOD later for the beginning part of it. Girl, what are you doing? Why are you in the gym at 2:30 a.m.? I'm also on my chip break. That is dedication. I would never do that. So, this is a specific Scribal palette at the University of Memphis Museum that I did a project on. So, I've never set foot in a gym. Honestly, me neither, but I do like some stuff. If there's a yoga studio in the gym, I would do that. So when I came upon this, we really didn't know that much. The majority of the collection at the University of Memphis was 44 pieces that were purchased from the university, or the, oh, maybe you only get one every so often at Kronika. I'm not sure, but you're welcome. I'm just now getting alerts, like OBS is updated, so now it alerts me when ads run. So I'm like, now that I'm very cautious about them, and I try not to say anything during. They're only 30 seconds because I couldn't bear it making them any longer than that. Even though I could have gotten a little bit more money. So, the majority of the collection at the University of Memphis's art museum, it's called AMUM, Art Museum of the University of Memphis. The majority of the Egyptian collection was purchased from the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, using a thing called the Edward H. and Suzanne Trezevant Little Fund. So 44 pieces were purchased from the MFA in Boston and brought to Memphis, and essentially they stay there. They're kind of on loan, but not really on loan. Somebody from the MFA in Boston, we're supposed to send them emails about like updates, like, I think once a year, about like how the condition is of it. One of the curators from the MFA in Boston came and gave a lecture at the university, and my professor, who was the curator, was absolutely freaking out that this guy was going to like dig into her about like the conditions of all the objects or whatever. And what happened is she was going to give him a tour of the museum, and my fellow student was bringing him from one location to the museum to give a tour, and our teacher was so nervous about it that she made the girl stay on the tour with him. And essentially, when she told him that the majority of the objects came from the MFA in Boston, this man had no idea. And he was like, oh, I guess I could get the condition reports from you now. I didn't know that. Like, he had no idea that these objects were from his museum. Whatever. Yes, I'm trying to get better at that, Ikonika. Now I'm glad that I know when ads come. No, I honestly am. So again, a lot of these objects came from, and then a lot of the rest of them came from like private institutions, or they were gifted, or lots of weird things. So this object we knew came from the MFA in Boston, and I was really hopeful that we were going to have an excavation report, because the MFA in Boston is one of those places that, yes, they do have donations. Yes, they have things that were technically just taken from Egypt and brought to the museum, but the majority of the objects there were properly excavated. The MFA in Boston had an amazing track record with actually excavating and in Egypt during a time when the Egyptians would let you excavate, and they would divide the finds equally between the place that excavated and Egypt itself. So I was really hoping that this one would be one of the ones that was excavated. So when I was going around this and looking at it, I discovered that on the back there were 2 numbers written on this reed pen. 1981.115. This is the date that it came into the museum. So this was the U of M number. And then it also had this number, 13.4287. And I was like, what is this number? And I realized that this was an excavation number. And actually, if I remember correctly, yeah, for some reason, it doesn't even have it doesn't have the U of M number on it. It actually only has these 2 numbers. It has 13.4287, and then it has 133370 on it, which you can't even see. It's so hard to see. And I was like, what the heck number is this? And I discovered it was an excavation number, which was literally like the best thing that could have happened. So with this number, and with me going, like, I couldn't find anything for the longest time, and I wanted to reach out to the MFA in Boston to see if I could go through their archive or whatever. And I literally Googled that number and Scribal Palette, Memphis, Tennessee. So University of Memphis. We call it U of M. Not really, kind of. But the crazy part is that I literally Googled that number, 133370, and maybe Scribal Palette, or maybe MFA in Boston. Like, I don't know what I Googled with it. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh. Sorry, I had to dust the gallery this morning, and I'm all congested since then. I found a lot of dust in a mortar and pestle. Oh, okay. So I literally Googled it. Thank you. I literally Googled that number, and I found a dissertation from, this woman named Karen Kronecki, who did a dissertation about an excavation in an area called, where's the heck? I wrote it down. Oh, I didn't realize that. Through that. Thank you. So this woman did her entire PhD dissertation about model boats, which, very similar to what I was telling you guys before, model boats are just a model of a boat with usually the deceased sitting on it and all these little people, and it's meant to be a boat that is going to carry you in the afterlife. It's supposed to come alive and take you places in the afterlife. And so this woman did her entire dissertation on model boats, specifically model boats coming from an area called Sheikh Farag. Now, I knew that this place, in our records, that this most likely came from Sheikh Farag. I don't think I knew the specific tomb number. I think I just knew that this was generally coming from that area, or maybe I knew that it was only coming from Abydos, which is essentially a big city on the other side of Sheikh Farag, the other side of the river. that number just happened to be at the bottom of this dissertation because this woman in her dissertation made an entire Excel spreadsheet about every single artifact that was found in this particular tomb with all these other model boats. Like, she essentially is doing exactly what archaeologists do, where you are finding an object and you are looking at everything else that is found around it to put it into context. And this woman, God bless this woman, literally created an entire Excel spreadsheet compiling everything from diary entries, tomb cards, and letters found in the MFA in Boston's archive about this excavation. So, I discovered that this piece was excavated in 1913 by George Reisner. He was a huge curator at the MFA in Boston, and he did a joint excavation with Harvard University and the MFA. And this was in a tomb called Tomb 170 in Sheikh Farag. There were 2 burial chambers in this tomb. This dates to the late Middle Kingdom, mid-Dynasty 12 to Dynasty 13/17. And there were tons and tons of items found in this tomb. None of them were in particularly good condition, but there were some in pretty good condition. We had mummy cartonnage, an inscribed box, a wooden ear of a mummy mask, 1 complete model boat, fragments of 3 other model boats, 20 intact and pieces of pottery, garnet, faience, carnelian, beryl, amethyst beads, and amulets. There were 2 Ka statues. A Ka statue is essentially a statue of the deceased that is meant for your Ka, which is a piece of your soul that kind of can go and fly around. One that can't. So the Ka is meant as kind of a resting place for that Ka. So there were 2 Ka statues in here, a wooden shapti, a silver wire amulet, and a wooden model scepter, and 4 skulls were found in this tomb as well. It was obviously had been looted and had been open to the elements, especially. But because we're talking late Middle Kingdom, and because we have mummy cartonnage, it implies that they were mummified. But because they're also skeletons, like leftover skulls and not mummified, like a mummified head, we can presume that they were either looted shortly after, or they were like left out into the elements. And looters really took a number to everything here. So based on what we found, this woman who wrote this dissertation thinks that this might have been a tomb for a titled individual, and based on this Scribal palette being there, a scribe is definitely possible. It's also unclear if this is a family tomb with 4 skulls in there. It implies that it probably was, so maybe one of the individuals was a scribe. The thing about it is if you weren't trained to be a scribe, there would be no reason for you to have a Scribal palette, so pretty much it automatically assumes that you at least had some sort of scribal training. So the palette was in the Division of Finds that went to the MFA in Boston, and then again in 1976, 44 objects from the MFA were given and purchased to University of Memphis, and so this is one of those 44 pieces. And I just have this whole big thing, so it is stable. One of the reed pens has split. The cool part about it is that the reed pens are still in it, which is pretty rare. That is a very good question. A shapti is not meant to be the deceased. It is meant to be a servant for the deceased. It is essentially in the very, very early pre-dynastic age, there was sacrificial servants, like servants were sacrificed to go to the afterlife with their pharaohs, with the really big rulers of the time, because we do have evidence of like mass burials for these really, really early pharaohs. But that trend goes totally out of fashion as soon as, like, I don't know, sense comes to them. But we think shaptis are their replacement. Essentially that we're not going to actually kill anybody to join you in the afterlife, but we'll make you a little statue of a servant. They also have they also have a spell written on them that says that I will rise up and work for you, and it's called the Shapti spell. And so they're not meant to be the deceased. The Ka statue is meant to be an image of the deceased for the deceased spirit, one of the parts of his soul to live in. So that's the difference. But that's a very good question. And it is Shabti, or Shab, it should be Shabti. I use it, I say there's a P, it's not a P, it's Shabti, or you could, well, actually I'm going to type them. There's lots of different ways people have spelled it over time. So it's either Shabti, Shabti, or, well, those are the two main ones. Sometimes people put an R in there, Usharti. That's not what it is. It's Ushapti, or Shapti are the two main ones. So yeah, so it is stable. It has 4 reed pens in there. Again, when I looked at the records, we had 4 different measurements for this on 4 different documents. So I was able to measure this. It is considerably smaller than many of the other Scribal palettes that we see. It has red inkwell, black inkwell, no ink cakes, but you'll be able to see the colors are still really there. We have one really long reed pen, supposing that it actually goes all the way through to the bottom of this, and then a shorter one. And yeah, so then we have it, Shake Frog Tomb 170, the 1912-1913 excavation. It was at the Museum of Fine Arts from 1913 to 1976, and then 1981 to the present, it was at the University of Memphis. So here are some really close-up pictures. The main thing you can see very distinctly, black is always on the top, red is always on the bottom, and you can very vaguely see that it was used. It had that dye in it. And then we have one of these reed pens is split down here, and it does have a little bit of black on top. That's either black paint or it could be burnt, but we're not really sure. And there's a lot of little pieces of paint. This, honestly, right here, these little pieces of red, I suspect that is actually this that then got stuck. But then you can see here, this is the excavation number, and then this is the number from the MFA in Boston. We have our own number at University of Memphis, but we didn't write it on this piece. Now, the other thing that is really unique about it is that it has this side hole. So when you look at it from the front, this piece is perfectly preserved like that. I'm actually going to go all the way back to this photo, which is hard to see, but it's perfectly preserved here, but there is this long slot that goes from the edge, and you can see the wood grain is completely off. So essentially what it seems like, instead of carving the slot out of the top and replacing the piece, they actually carved it out of the side, and what it looks like, put a completely different piece of wood in, which is really unique. And you'll look at these other Scribal palettes I'm going to show you, and that is not common at all. Let me see. Yeah, so this piece is significantly smaller. A lot of them are longer because they're trying to get closer to a standardized width to become a ruler. This one's very, very small. Which I kind of think is indicative of the Middle Kingdom. Middle Kingdom's a little bit more, even though it is still pretty prosperous, it's a little bit more poor than the Old Kingdom and the New Kingdom. And we're also talking the late Middle Kingdom, so we're talking about the downfall of the Middle Kingdom as well. So, let's look at some other Scribal palettes. I have no notes from the rest of this. For the rest of this is literally just me geeking out about Scribal palettes and wanting to talk to them about them with you. So what I'm gonna actually do is y'all can see these, but this is University of Memphis's website. This is they have some images of the Scribal palette here. I wrote this whole thing on their website, and there's the video. Would you guys like to watch the video? We can watch it. It does talk about scribes. It kind of repeats a lot of the stuff that I already said, but we can watch the video if you would like. Yeah, we can watch the video if you like, because I made it, and it's sure. Okay, let me pause that. Actually, and the other thing is my friend has one about Shopties. Full screen mode is unavailable? Okay, well. I am gonna skip a little bit. collection of the Institute of Egyptian Art and Archaeology. The Scribal Palette is on exhibit in the Egyptian Gallery at the Art Museum of the University of Memphis. Be a scribe.
Oh, there's the goose. Did you see the goose? Sorry. There's the goose. There's the mummified goose. I forgot. There's the goose. This is what the exhibit looks like, complete with the mummified goose. I can talk about the mummified goose later if you want.
University of Memphis. Okay. Be a scribe. It saves you from toil and protects you from all manner of work. In a text called The Satire of Trades, a master scribe comments on the superiority of the scribal profession to his apprentice. This scribal palette, which measures just over 8 inches long, would have been a scribe's main writing tool and dates to the Middle Kingdom,
so long back
approximately 1878 to 1550 BCE. It was excavated in 1912 from a tomb in Sheikh Farad across the Nile from Abydos by George Reisner in a joint excavation by Harvard University and the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. These handheld pieces, usually made from wood, have 2 inkwells and a slot to hold reed pens. Dried ink cakes would have been in the inkwells and dabbed with water to write with. Black ink was used for text, while red ink was used for titles or corrections. A scribe would chew on the end of the reed.
This took me so long. It took me like 4 tries to do it right.
What drew me to this piece is the evidence that it was used before being placed in the tomb. The slight discoloration in the inkwells shows the black and red ink, and one of the reed pens still has black ink on the tip. So who would have owned this palette? Although many palettes
I don't know why scribes always have all those belly rolls, but I love them. They're so cute.
Is unknown. It could have been owned by a scribe or anyone who was trained in writing the Egyptian language. Scribes were typically trained in hieratic, a cursive form
of a
monumental hieroglyphic script.
That's hieroglyphic.
Since the majority of the Egyptian population were not able to read or write, this person would have automatically been of a higher status than most. Scribes were necessary for a variety of jobs, such as taking the census, recording harvests, and designing tombs. The tomb also contained multiple model boats, pottery, and jewelry, along with this scribal palette.
So, I'll briefly talk about this. So, these are some of the images. Oh my god. So these are some of the images of some of the items that were found from this tomb from the 1913. Unfortunately, there is no photo of the scribal palette. But this was the model boat. I'll turn up the CC so you can see it. So this is the model boat, and this is not a great model boat. We have lots of really good, well-preserved model boat. I was very shocked that she said this is a complete version of a model boat. But this is the boat, and these are all of the little people that would have been on this boat, along with, like, I'm pretty sure, like, the oars and just, like, some other, like, random items and stuff. But there's not a lot of photos about what was actually found here or what the tomb looked like.
Along with this scribal palette,
and this, I think this is one of the Ka statues, but it also might be a very small statue of the deceased on the boat. Typically, one of the seated people would be the deceased person, like on the boat, or it looks like a mummy on the boat. So I can't remember now, because this was a couple of years ago, if this is what was considered the Ka statue or if this is the little man on the boat. But we can presume this is one of the deceased people who was buried. Either way.
A well-off individual. I love to imagine what this scribe recorded with the scribal palette, especially with this advice from the Lansing Papyrus. Befriend the scroll, the palette. It pleases more than wine. Happy is the heart of him who writes. He is young each day.
I did like that because I was able to include so many cool texts and stuff in it. But yeah. There's also another one by my friend called the Silent Shopti, which is a pretty good video. I don't know what happened to my other friend's video because I couldn't find it on our website. So, granted, I guess if I go here, yeah. So there's the other one that she made. Yeah, again, all 3 of us made one, and then that's it. Nobody else made any. So, these are all the ones that I'm going to talk about. So I'm just going to pull this up to the side. And I'll just read out some of the stuff about these. First, we're looking at the first half of ones from the Met. This one is dating to the Second Intermediate period and early New Kingdom. It's not on view apparently, but it was excavated in Asaif Courtyard, CC 41, Tomb R3, Burial C2 in a coffin. Haha! That's very nice. Excavated by the Met in 1915 to 1916. The site of Birabi is located in that area of Hatshepsut's Valley Temple at the eastern end of the causeway leading to her temple at Deir al-Bahri. The Valley Temple and causeway have covered up earlier tombs that dated from the Middle Kingdom to the joint reign of Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. The northern side of the large courtyard, CC 41, was partially cleared by Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter, hence the designation CC Carnarvon. Carnarvon and Carter. I like that. I didn't know that. The southern half of the courtyard was in the concession of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. During the 1915-1916 field season, the museum excavated 3 pits and 7 burials in the courtyard and 12 rock-cut tombs along the courtyard's southern wall. This object was among the pieces given to the museum by the Egyptian Antiquities Service when the finds were divided at the end of the season. That is literally nothing. They usually talk way more. What kind of wood? That is a very good question. What does this say? I am going to assume it just says wood. So Egyptian, there is not a lot of wood. Oh, I forgot to start up the chill music again. Oh wait, no, that's on this page. Sorry, I need music. It's too quiet in here. But that's gonna be really loud for you. Whoop. That is in outside of Thebes. So, sorry. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to find the page again. So that's outside of Thebes on the west side of the Nile from Thebes, which is modern day Luxor. So we don't call it Middle Egypt. It's kind of technically, well, it's kind of Middle Egypt. Nowadays it is in the middle of Egypt. But so right across the river from modern day Luxor, ancient Thebes, is the Valley of the Kings. And the Valley of the Kings is up on a valley, up in this huge, you have to it's this huge hike. Right below it is Deir al-Bahri. So it's a huge 3 temple complexes, one from Mentuhotep II in the Middle Kingdom, one enormous one from Hatshepsut, and then a third one from Thutmose III, her nephew/stepson. But because they built this area in a place near a Middle Kingdom ruler, there were already Middle Kingdom dated burials. So that's when this one came into play. The wood in ancient Egypt sucked. Most likely this could be like date wood from like a date tree or palm wood. They did not have good wood. They had enough wood to be able to do small projects like this, but anything larger that they needed, say for sarcophagi, you would have to import it from Lebanon, and that would be cedar. But for this time, it would not be good. Why wood? That is a very good question. Most everything was made out of wood. They didn't really have anything that probably could hold it better, because the only other thing, so down here, you can see this one is made out of ivory. Ivory's super expensive. They didn't really have anything that could retain it better. Like, obviously they didn't have plastic. Like, think about modern day palettes today. Like, you could do stone, but the stone could very easily break if you dropped it. Freya, my legs feel like jelly. I'm so glad you're home. There's one at your museum. I want to find it because I'm tempted to do exactly what I did with my thesis and do it for these, where I just make a collection. I just want to make a list. I just want to make an Excel spreadsheet again. I've been craving an Excel spreadsheet. I've been craving to make an Excel spreadsheet so that if anybody wants to learn more about Scribal Palettes, you can just email me and I'll give you all the information I can. This might be a project that I'm going to start working on kind of soon for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, so this first one, which is the one up here, I think it's actually cool. This definitely looks like ivory at the bottom. It does say that it has wood, ivory, and ink. I have never seen one where it just has a little ivory at the bottom. Making a pottery piece, it's definitely possible. I've never seen a Scribal palette like that. Well, I've seen stone ones. I've never seen a pottery one, probably because it would be really breakable.
And honestly, sometimes terracotta can soak up liquids like paint really well. Like sometimes some types of terracotta, when you bake it, like all of my little like terracotta plant vases, they all like soak up water because they're really porous. So in this case, wood might be better. I'm sure that some of these at least had varnished wood so that it wouldn't soak it in that better. And also, this is not a liquid paint. This is an ink cake. So it's not, well, one, it's not really paint as it is, it's ink. Although I'm thinking now, I don't know what the distinction between ink and paint is, like chemically. But these were little ink cakes, so they were like watercolor. So they would dry up as soon as you didn't put any water on them. Frequently, they wouldn't leave them in the little tiny holes. You would take them out and you would keep them separately until you needed them. But yeah, so this one is interesting because I think this has to be ivory. Yeah, exactly. Cormabald for 6 months in advance. Cormabald, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, Freya, I want to look at it. I'm gonna go back to just chatting so I can just pull up the picture of it, so that nobody sends it. Oh, look at that! You have one that also has. Also, I love how that I'm totally in this. Let me show everyone. There's me at the bottom. But look, this one also has a little bit of ivory at the bottom. That's amazing. If your museum has I think I know which museum you're talking about, but I am gonna check because I want to see if your museum has an online catalog that I can look at. Yeah, you have two. There are two right next to each other in that picture. Oh, Gormal, thank you. You're so nice. That makes me so happy. You're so nice. I love you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I had so many people. It's so funny because like we love paleontologizing here, and like he gives us a raid like once in a while, and we give him a raid once in a while. But obviously a lot of the people I have are dual wielding, and so they'll go to paleontologizing or they'll come to me. But the other thing that's funny is frequently when he's raided me recently, there's not a lot of new people. It's a lot of his normal people. So last night was amazing because there was like, I got like almost like 25 new followers or something. And I was like, oh, we haven't had that in a long time because frequently a lot of the people that go to his streams already follow me and already come and support me, which is just amazing. I've met so many great people through his streams. Shout out to Danny. The damn stream deck doesn't work. I gotta type everything. I gotta my damn stream deck. Nothing is working. I also discovered that my Twitter alert on my stream deck is not working. I don't know how to fix any of this. Oh, yes, HD and HB, you were here yesterday too. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys. It's just the best. We love Danny. If anybody didn't see, a couple months ago, maybe was that 2 months ago or something, Danny came to my stream and we talked for literally 5 hours about the differences in our field, and we're planning to do another one too. As soon as he gets back from digging, we're planning to do another one. Oh, you also found him yesterday? That's wild. That's so wild. I'm so sorry, Akunika. I am very bad. Is he still in the field? I'm assuming he's still in the field. I'm very bad at going to my favorite streamers' streams. So that's why I usually raid. Usually that's the only way. But yeah, we're hoping to do another stream with Danny. It was so good. We had no plans as how long we were going to talk. And then suddenly we looked and it was like 5 or 6 hours later and we were like, ooh. And of course he's on the West Coast, so he was like, yeah, it's okay, I just gotta go eat. Me at 9 o'clock that night making a quesadilla for myself because I was so hungry. Yeah, he's still digging. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. I knew he was gonna be in the field for a while. I think he might even be still there in August or so. But yeah, we're both of us are totally up for it and doing it again. So it'll be great. I love it. All right, so that is the first one.
It's not on display, which is kind of a bummer because I kind of like it, but it does have 3 reed pens, which I find that the ones that have the reed pens are usually ones that have been excavated. There aren't enough, but if you ever want to find more, follow the TKF. No, the dang thing didn't work. The Knowledge Foundation. Dang it. I don't know why that alert didn't work. Okay, well, nothing's working. The Knowledge Foundation is a group on Discord of educational streamers. Tons of different people. I am part of it. Danny is part of it. Definitely find it. That was supposed to be a link to it, and now I can't. And now I can't link it. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not working. The Knowledge Foundation. Yeah, TKF. There we go. Now it works. Okay. TKF. You can go to TKF and learn more. HT and HB, that's literally amazing because I am the only Egyptologist that really streams. There are, I think, other paleontologists, but he's definitely the biggest one. And there are other archaeologists. There's actually a really great group of archaeo gamers, but I'm the only Egyptologist, which is very cool because we love it here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the next Scribal palette, I'm not gonna close these just in case. So the next one is this one with the black and red, which you can see here. This one doesn't have the little holes. It's just the little black and red on this section. Yeah, amateur archaeologist. She's my buddy. We have a group together called On Earth Archaeology. Follow us. We're cool. Oh yeah, Freya. When I started, it took me a really long time to get accepted to the TKF because they have like a board sort of that like selects people and lets certain people in at certain times. And I've looked at it recently and they started accepting people a lot faster than when I joined, which was a while ago. Yeah, lots of rocket science, lots of astronomy people, lots of space people, absolutely. So this palette is super interesting because it doesn't have the little holes that you have to write. So, this is actually also inscribed. I might have to show you the other pictures of it so you can see the inscription. So this palette is inscribed for Smedes II, High Priest of Amun from the 3rd Intermediate Period. Is unique in that it has a scale painted on the side. See those little dots? I'm going to show you guys the whole thing. Boop, 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 boop. So there's the scale. Can I zoom in? Oh, yes. Oh, there's something about really high-res photos on museum websites. Like, look how, oh my God. It's literally the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But yeah, see all the little dots? It's a scale, so you can tell how long things should be. But see how this one was carved out, but they also, they carved the whole thing out and then inserted a thin piece right there. So that's very different than the Memphis one. There's the other side of it. There's the front of it. And there's the inscription. Doesn't that look cool? Base 10. Is that for the scale? This is very hard for me to remember, but I'm 99% sure. What is it? I think it's... How many dots are in this? I'm gonna look at what this says and then I'm gonna answer. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Yeah, so it looks like there's 5 dots per section. So 10 dots, but five at length for the little line. The weird part about the scale is that it's all based on an arm. It's all based on your arm length, and a scale in ancient Egypt is also the way that squares work. It's based on the shape of your fist and the size of your fist. It's very complicated because that means it's different for everyone, but not really different for everyone. It's a whole big thing. Ooh, Tea Time Cat? That is a super good question. I don't know. I would like to think that they did. I would like to think that that was a course that you would take in how to be a scribe, is you would make your own Scribal palettes. And I would think that would honestly make a little sense because you guys are going to see a pretty big diversity with the rest of these Scribal palettes that I'm going to show you.
So that might be possible. That might be it. Or the only other people that would make them were other scribes. I would kind of pose those two options, that either the scribe would make it themselves, or they would only get them from other scribes. Maybe their tutor would make it for them. I don't expect this to be, yes, Freya, we're going to look at some. Absolutely. There definitely are some, this is not something that you would just, I don't think that you would just find a craftsman that makes it, because this is such a select field. This seems to me like something that only scribes would make for themselves or make for other scribes. I don't think this is something that you could go buy in a shop, because the thing is, anybody who thought that they could do that, you're making no money, kind of. Which, if you catch my drift. How do I exit out of this? So yeah, this is the Paladin Scribe for Smedes, High Priest of Amun. Is unique because it has a scale painted on its side. According to Egyptologist William C. Hayes, this was used by scribes to enlarge or reduce designs proportionally at a ratio from 1 to 6. That is also true. I think there could be a stuff that may have been passed down, because it says in certain cases this is a familial occupation. Not all the time, but it could be. On the underside is a hieratic inscription naming Smedes, who was High Priest of Amun and the general of the army. The palette was found in Thebes together with tweezers that may have been used to manipulate the ink cakes, and a calendar of lucky and unlucky days, which is in the Egyptian Museum. Ad break. I'm gonna eat a chip. Thank you, Karma Bald. It is hard because, like, half the reason my name is MelissainDeNile is because I'm in denial and I have, like, imposter syndrome and such. But, like, I pick the topics that I know a lot about, and then I don't know a lot about other things. All right. So this is super interesting that this palette was found with tweezers, which I can look up that number if we want. I might do that. Though I will say the Met's website is not the best for looking up numbers. Tweezers. Ooh, those are fancy tweezers. They're like not these are made out of gold? These are not patinaed. The Levi's one is entertaining. These are not patinaed, like, at all. Oh, they're made out of bronze. Wow. I find it very weird that tweezers would be used to manipulate the ink cakes, especially because, as you guys see, this one doesn't got ink cakes. This one has ink blots. It doesn't have the holes to hold the ink cakes. It's just, although, no, I don't think this has a hole underneath it. It's very weird. This one's very weird in comparison to a lot of the other ones. And then this is always a gamble. I'm going to try to search this on Google. Anything with the GE or the CE is a number that comes from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's a very old numbering system, and it is really, they don't have a collection basis. If I search this number, there are literal no chances that this will pop up on Google anywhere. I'm just gonna type in Cairo Museum. Yeah, so the Met thing comes up. See, I need it, like, if you put the quotes around it, it'll... Of course. Oh! Yaroslav Cherny, that is a Hungarian name. Copper, control find, control paste. Yeah, this is just a list that doesn't show anything. This is what happens, man. These things never... Yeah, lists of text. They'll tell you what the text is. Visionary Hayes, thank you for the follow. Oh, here we go. Let's look at this academia article. Shut up. Is this my email? I think this is me.
Egyptian curses. Wait, I want to see this. I want to look at this. What is my primary occupation? I don't know. Have I ever published the following? Yes. Why am I answering these questions? No. I just want to look at this document. Control, find, paste. Wait, I should look at what this article is called first. Hee hee. So this is in a book called Egyptian Curses, a research on ancient catastrophes from the Archaeological Heritage and Multidisciplinary, oh no, a journal, sorry, a journal. But is that what no, the article is not called that. That's what the journal's called. So what is, oh no, it is called Egyptian Curses. That's what oh no, this is it. Disasters connected with the rhythm of the Nile in textual sources. This is wild. Like, this is just, I am such a simple Egyptologist. Thank you. We do love Indiana Jones here. I am such a simple Egyptologist. So some of these, like, topics that people talk about are just, like, absolutely wild to me. So this is talking about famines and epidemics and natural catastrophes that are mentioned in Egyptian texts. So this piece is mentioned here. The cause of the annual pestilence, or plague, is never stated directly. The calendrical omens recorded on Papyrus Cairo GE 86637 and on the Papyrus Salir from the Ramesside period show that the sickness broke out during 2 days specific of the year. So it said that these days are cursed. I'm gonna have to do deep dives on this because this is a very interesting article. So the first lasted from the 3rd month of Akhet, day 20, to the 1st month of Peret, day 19. So approximately from the 24th of September to the 22nd of November. Corresponded exactly to the period in which the inundation of the Nile was withdrawing, so the flooding is going away. The waters were stagnant. It's so weird. I'm gonna have to read about this later. You know when you just get into a deep dive that you're like, I can't get out of now? Go back, go back, go back, go back. Oh, perfect. This is what I want. No! Behind a paywall. Alright, we'll look at this later. I'm gonna look at this later. Rabbit holes are absolutely real, and we do get into them. So yeah, so apparently, so this dates, it's weird, it says the 3rd intermediate period, but that thing said that this papyrus dates to the Ramesside period, which is not the same period. So that's already seeming a little odd to me. So this was purchased from the museum in 1947. So we don't know where this came from. So honestly, because this is saying that they were found at Thebes together with the tweezers and this text, but if this text is supposedly Ramesside and this is 3rd intermediate period, that's not correct, kind of. That's not right. So I have a feeling that they weren't really found together, they were purchased together, which is a difference. But yeah, so this is another one. I really love the dots. The dots definitely just shows the more academic side of scribes, and that they had to be like really mathematician side of it. But then you can also see how this method of carving out this side, this is just like really, it makes it really weak, kind of. Let's move on to the next one. So this is the one about a princess that I was going to talk about. So this is the writing palette and brushes of Princess Merit Aten. It has an amazing little text in here with her name in a cartouche. And this is made out of ivory. As you can see, the piece that the hieroglyphs are on was carved out to fit the reed pens in, and then they carved it in so it actually doesn't look as suspicious or conspicuous. And this actually has 4, but they're very small. It's very weird. And it has literally no information. What? It has no information. It has no information. Why does it? why I hate museums. Because it's not on view, there's literally not even a description. So, okay, this is what we got. So, Meket Aten, Aten meaning that this absolutely is one of the daughters of Akhenaten. She has Aten in the name. Comes from the Amarna period, Dynasty 18. Said to be from Upper Egypt, Thebes. So we don't even know where this was found. But what's the provenance? Of course it was. It was acquired by Lord Carnarvon, was in the Carnarvon collection, and then it was part of the collection that the museum purchased from Lady Carnarvon after he had passed. In 1926. So we don't know where this came from at all. Lord Carnarvon was not an archaeologist. He was a financier. He was really interested in Egypt. He helped discover Tutankhamun, but only because he funded it. So this was most likely purchased somewhere in Egypt in the 1920s, or 1910s maybe. Yes, half sister, one of Tut's half sisters. I want to see if we. Yeah, she's got 4 little inkwells, and they all look like a different shade, but I don't know what shades they could be. It's very weird that there's no red. This looks like it would have been actually a painting palette, but it's also so small to be a painting palette. Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe? Alright, here's Meket Aten. So here she is on her mother's lap. So she is one of Nefertiti's daughters, but it means that she is King Tut's half-sister, because Nefertiti is not the mom of King Tutankhamun. But here she is. And then this is Ancient Pa'aten, so this becomes Ankhenamun, who married King Tut. I'm wondering, the one thing I just wanted to look, I wanted to see if, okay, yeah, so this is the one I was thinking of. So, Meket Aten died during the Amarna period, before her father, we think. We essentially, there is a theory that she was married to her father and that she might have died in childbirth, but we don't really have a lot of evidence of that. You can see there's some stuff that has there. It's all about a royal baby, if I remember correctly. There's a theory stems from a depiction of a royal baby in a royal tomb, leading to the theory that she died in childbirth, which I think is somewhat this image, but it's really badly destroyed. She died approximately in year 14 of his reign, which is coming up to the end, right before he died. There was a plague. We know that there was a plague in Amarna, and so she may have died from that. And many historical figures royal figures from this period disappear around this time. So Queen Mother Tiye, his king's wife Kia, and then Nefer Ure, Sete Penere, and Meket Aten. So 3 of the daughters of Akhenaten, besides Ancient Pa'aten, Ankhenamun, and stuff. We believe this is Meket Aten, and everyone is mourning her. This is her tomb, most likely. Her father, probably her mother, her 3 sisters, maybe. And I remember I can't remember where the baby is. They think that there's a baby in one of these images from the tomb, and that's why they think it might be her. Yeah, but yeah, I wanted to make sure that this was the right daughter. Oh yeah, behind them, a nurse cradles a baby in her arms and is accompanied by a fan bearer. Which one is that? Maybe that's after this. Yeah, I think there's another image where it looks like a nurse is holding a baby in her arms. And then it's accompanied by a fan bearer, which indicates the baby's royal status, and so they think it's Meket Aten's. Which one are we on? We're on this one. I don't know. I don't know if I don't think we would be able to chemically match it, because I hate to say it, most of these inks are really simple. It's literally just charcoal and charcoal and some sort of acacia gum or Arabic gum. So I don't know. I don't know how we'd be able to chemically distinguish any one ink cake from any other ink cake. I think that's the big thing. But yeah. So this is Mekhenaten. Oh yes, it does say, thank you. It says red, yellow, and black pigment. So there's 4 things, but I guess that's red. That doesn't look red at all, but it also doesn't look like this has been cleaned in a long time. So I guess red, yellow, and then I guess she has 2 blacks. Fan bearers are great, man. I would love somebody to follow me around and do that. But yeah, so the text here, what does this say? Ooh, I actually can read I can read some of this. I would like to translate this actually. This means, Nesusat, king's daughter, and, I don't know what that symbol's supposed to be. But this means mess, so this means birth. So this probably means born of, and then this is her name. Huh. Maybe this isn't her name. Maybe this is Akhenaten's name. I was gonna say, this literally looks like Nefer. Ooh, huh. I'm gonna have to look that up later. Paranoid Polaroid, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about Scribal Palettes, which are what scribes would have used in ancient Egypt. I'm very glad you're here. I'm gonna have to look that up later. Oh god, I wish I had that book on hand. Let me see if I can find it. There is a book that would help me immensely in this moment, if I remember where it is. Oh, it actually might be in here. Oh, god. Dang. Oh, here we go. Hee. I do have this. Let's see if it's in here. There's so much crap on this bookshelf. I have this book called The Names of the Kings of Egypt, which I got discounted because it has a coffee stain on it. I want to look up Akhenaten's name because I want to see if this is his throne name. Dynasty 20... Dynasty, not Dynasty 1990, Dynasty 18. Ironically, I think that's Nefertiti's name. Wait. I gotta look at this right. I actually think that's... Oh my god, it is! I've never actually used this book to like actually find the name. This is Nefertiti's name. Like almost exactly as it is here. So it starts with a little bread loaf. Then it's... I think this is supposed to be water, which is weird because it's shown correctly up there, but I think this is supposed to be water, then the ray, then the reed leaf, then these are the, what is that supposed to be? It's the trachea and the heart of a cow, but that symbol means Nefer, which is beautiful, and good and all that, but when you read it multiple times, it means the most beautiful at all, which is literally what Nefertiti's name means, if anybody didn't know that. And then it has, yeah, so there's another one there, and then, because there needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5 of them. So there's 4 here, and there's a 5th one here, and then it's a little reed leaf, then it's 2 little dashes, then it's the no, the bread loaf, 2 little dashes, then it's the reed leaf with legs, then it's the little, I don't even know what that's supposed to be, and then it's the little queen with her little queen headdress, and she's holding something in her hand. Aha! Cow trachea, yeah. It's supposed to be his cow trachea and, oh no, yeah, maybe it's just the cow trachea. I always think it's the heart at the bottom, but I think it's trachea and lungs or something. I can't remember. I think it's, but that's really cool. Yeah, so it actually says wife, it actually says daughter. I actually might take a picture of this and I might try to translate this later. Because I can recognize most of this. This definitely says born of, so I have a feeling this probably means daughter of the king's daughter. This definitely says the king's daughter here at the top, but this obviously says born of because this is messy. And then actually now that I'm looking at this says also king's daughter. Oh, no, that's not the goose. It kind of looks like the goose, but it's not really. But I'm trying to see where her name is. I think this is her name. Mare? What is Mare? I'm trying to remember what... Her name has to be on here somewhere. So it might be maybe it's here? I'm gonna look this up later. But yeah, that's definitely Nefertiti's name, which is pretty cool. I did not expect that. I was expecting Akhenaten's name. That's not Akhenaten's name, or Amenhotep's the name. That is definitely Akhenaten. Oh, never mind. I just figured it out. Am I right? I'm checking my work. Oh, it's almost there, so I think it is. I think this is the word for Aten, for the god. But it's in a cartouche in this case, but this looks really similar. So I have a feeling it's saying king's daughter, daughter of the Aten, and then it says born of Nefertiti, is kind of what it says. It's not exactly correct, but it's really close. Anonymous! Thank you so much. I'm gonna cry. Guys, you do not know I'm gonna cry. Who got one? Nader Fian, Herkasamon, T-Time Cat, Naveen the Bean, and Bette Midler. Anonymous, you're so kind. I'm gonna cry. I love you guys so much. I'm not even joking you. We struggling to pay bills right now. Granted, all my MelissainDeNile money goes back to MelissainDeNile, but like on my normal front, like because I haven't gotten paid for like a month, in like normal life. But this means that I can get stream avatars for y'all. This means I can get more stream elements for y'all because I've been wanting stream avatars for the longest time, and I've commissioned them so they're gonna look like ancient Egyptian gods. So we already have 2. I just commissioned 4 with like the last of like my MelissainDeNile money, but like this is gonna go to get the last 4 so we can at least have 10. I want to get like 20, but like I want at least 10 to start with before. So y'all will have little ancient Egyptian gods walking around that you guys can pick, and it's gonna be so good. Thank you so much, Anonymous. That is so lovely. Oh my goodness. Everyone spread their love. If you got a gifted sub, spread the love to everyone else. Thank you so much. Look at that little sarcophagi. All right, that's very cool. I love this book. I'm wondering if there's a whole other section of the book, but it goes through literally all of the pharaohs and writes out all their names, which is great. So I loved this book, to be honest. It was probably really cheap, to be really. Let's go to the next one. We're still on the Met. We're literally on only the 3rd one, so they're gonna get simpler from here. That was a really elaborate one. So here is another one. Again, you can see the long slot that essentially was had, but we got a little ink cake left. Isn't that nice? Black is usually on the top, red is usually on the bottom. That's pretty standard. But this wasn't found with any reed pens. But it's pretty cool that the ink cake is still in there. So where is this one specifically? This is Middle Kingdom. So this is around the same time period as the one that the University of Memphis, 12 to 17. Purchased from Mohammed Mahasabib in Luxor in 1910. So no provenance. We don't really know where it came from. But it's a pretty nice one. It's actually still in pretty good condition, which is nice. Yeah, so they reference it to another one, which I'm assuming is one that's on my list of things. Sorry, I want to see what they're talking about with this. There's no... Is there any scribes in here? Oh, they're talking about him as a scribe. Oh, okay. They're just referencing lots of different stuff in this article. Met has really some really nice articles. So then the weird thing is you also find these models. So these are not real palettes, but they're models of palettes. So when we look really closely, this is ivory, so this is really fancy. But it's even more fancy that it's not a real palette, which is just weird. But you can see here the ink cake circles are actually the Shen sign. That's a really popular religious sign in ancient Egypt. I think it means like, it probably means dominion. It probably means a variety of different things. But if you look at vultures frequently, or Horus, Horus figures, falcon figures, they're frequently holding these in their talons. So that's what they've done. And then you can see fake reed pens, which is always funny. Hori, I don't know what Horus plural is. But then they have a whole big long text, and I will attempt to read this because at the beginning I definitely can. So which side am I gonna pick? I'm going to pick this side. So these are both offering formulas. These are super easy to read. I might do a class like this maybe when I start my Patreon on the very, very basics. I'm not very good. Yeah, I think that's I need to, there are lots of reasons why they could have a model one. I think this one, because this one is inscribed, I think we know a little bit about the person, so we'll read the description, but I'm going to read out the hieroglyphs for you first. So we have Hetep Dinisu, which is how you always start an offering formula. It means an offering that the king gave. Always put it in that tense. It is not that the king gives, it is always gave. My professor was very adamant about this. And then you have this word, which is Weser, which is the name of Osiris. But it's not that the king gives this gift to Osiris. It's that the king and Osiris is giving this to you or to the deceased. So you always got to add the and there. Hi, Chromagwald. Yes, please, please. We do 2 lectures a month. I am working on picking the dates. Frequently they've been Fridays or Saturdays, but the schedule for the lectures are, we do one that is a guest lecture that has usually nothing to do with ancient Egypt. It's called Beyond the Nile. I'm pretty much just grabbing my friends who want to talk about something that they're passionate about, and then I will do one that is about ancient Egypt a month. I think I've already picked which topic I'm gonna do. It's over on my Discord. I did a poll, and so I think it was whatever won in 3rd place, but we will do other polls in the future about it. But yeah, otherwise I stream 3 times a week, and you can find my schedule on Discord or on Twitter that I post usually once a week. But when I get the schedule finalized for the guest lectures, if you prefer just to see lectures, which is, and it happens sometimes, I'm pretty good about it. Yeah. There is always a set schedule. We're doing Tuesday, Thursdays. Thursday's game is changing. I think we're going to be playing an ancient Egypt game, but Tuesday, Thursdays now are like set. And then essentially it seems to be if it's a week that I have a lecture, and if it's on a Friday or a Saturday, I'll stream on Sunday. But if it's a week I don't have a lecture, I'll stream Saturday night. That's kind of, and I just got a new job, so we're still flexing a little bit, but usually I'm pretty good about keeping up my Twitch schedule. Usually as soon as I update my schedule on Discord and schedule on Twitter, I go to Twitch and try to update it as well. So definitely check in. But if you want to join the Discord, or if you just want to follow me on Twitter, I do try to keep those up to date as well. I have a very cool little image that I put up for my schedule every week. But yeah, I will let everyone know. I have to actually start. I didn't realize it's the end of the month, so I have to get ready on our next guest lecture, which I think I've already finalized. We need to pick a date. And it's going to be a good one. It's actually going to be slightly Egypt adjacent, but it's going to be cool. So I'm excited about that one. But thank you so much, Gurmabal. Thank you so much for subscribing for 6 months. It's absolutely wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad. Have it, enjoy. Please come watch the rest of the VOD if you have time later. I don't know how long we're going to keep going, but I'm going to try to get through all of these. There's a ton, but I'm going to try to get through them all. So yeah, so Hetepti, Nisu, Weser, then you got Neb Abiju, which is Abydos. No, Jeju. Sorry, this is Jeju, not Abiju, which is a different place. It's not Abydos. I can't remember. It might be. I can't remember off the top of my head. Jeju, Lord of the Jeju, but it's a city. I think it. We literally talked about this on my Discord the other day because I can't remember, but it's I think this is Abydos. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it is. Ooh, I don't know those glyphs. It's another city though. Pixie Squid, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the mummies. We're talking about Ancient Egyptian Scribal Palettes. We're looking at a model Scribal palette, and I'm reading out some hieroglyphs at the moment, although I've hit a wall where I can't read it. All I know is that this is a city. So this little glyph is supposed to be crossroads. So it means it's a city, or a generalized place. Oh, look at and Heru. Huh. And then look, we see that he is the king's scribe. So Nesu means king, and this is the word for scribe. He is a Nesu Sesh. So we know that this guy is a king's scribe. And then we have his name here at the bottom, which is Amun Hotep. Oh, that's such a simple name that I can read anytime. Name for Amun, name for the god Amun, and Hetep, which you say Hotep. It's not technically not. It's technically Imin-Hetep is how you say his name, but everybody knows it as Amun-Hotep at the moment. And you can see this is duplicated. It's almost the exact same thing, but this is for Osiris, foremost of the Westerners, I think. Great god, Aha. This is Aha, Aha Netcher, great god, Lord of, Lord of the Mount. Ooh, I don't know what that. I've never seen that one before. There's lots of different things. Surprisingly, this is not making any offerings. These are just like dedications. Thank you so much, Mexiquid. I'm so glad. And if you heard my rant, we do 2 lectures a month. I do one, and then I get a guest lecture that usually has nothing to do with ancient Egypt, but something about history, archaeology, art history, something like that. Oh, so this is saying he's born of. Did that say he's born of the gods? Oh, wait a second. Is this Lord? This is so bad. I'm usually very good at this, but this one's difficult. No, so we're actually talking about we're talking about the same people, because when you go all the way down, it has the same name. So this is just 2 separate offering formulas to the same person. But they're giving different epithets for the god. Essentially, gods can just do like gods. There's just tons. If we call them epithets, they're just titles to the gods, and gods can have countless of them. I have never found a very good list of epithets, and it annoys me because I would very much like one. It would be so helpful for instances like this. Offering formulas are super easy to read because the beginning is very formulaic, and that's why I can look at this and I can say, oh, this is Jeju, this is the city, this is foremost of the Westerners, because I've just memorized it. But then there are tons of epithets that you never see before, and so I would have to like fully translate this. But this is the word for the sky or heavens or whatever. But then this is also like a word for birth, and like you use it frequently to say you're born of. And this little flag means Netcher. When all 3 of them are there, that means Netcher-U, which means the gods. So it literally almost says born of the gods, which is wild. Which I guess they're talking about Osiris, so I guess that's true, but I've just never heard that epithet with him before. It's just a wild one. I've never heard of that one before. But again, then it says King's Scribe, and then this is describing him in some other way. And then, oh, it's actually saying of what city he's from, I think. What is that symbol? I've never seen that symbol before. But yeah, so that is this model Scribal palette. You can see why ivory is not used for normal Scribal palettes. This one is hella broken. It was broken in many places. So So yeah, so this is a model of a scribe's palette inscribed for Amenhotep. So it's a funerary model of a scribe's palette inscribed for the royal scribe and chief steward of Memphis. That's what it is Hemnecher. I think Hemnecher is the ancient name for Memphis. So he lived during the reign of Amenhotep III. So he was a king scribe. We know that. Probably from the Memphite area. What's the provenance? Purchased through Christie's. Previously in the collection of Maurice Naman. But yeah, 18th dynasty, definitely, that makes sense. It's actually travertine. It's actually alabaster. That makes it even more sense why it actually was, why it's actually broken even more. It's not ivory, it's stone. And yes, you are totally right. The ultimate retirement. So that is mainly what models were for. Like, we could presume that this guy probably, in his actual tomb, probably also had a real scribal palette. But models were sometimes easier to make. Like, you had to believe that the ancient Egyptians would take anything they wanted into the afterlife. So they would have both real versions and model versions. So that's why, like, if you've ever seen the joke about the model cucumber, it looks like a dildo, but it's literally just a model cucumber. Like, it is at the simplest thing is that it is literally just a tiny little cucumber that will supposedly become a real cucumber in the afterlife for the ancient Egyptian to eat. And so that's exactly what these are for, is that it is a scribal palette. It's just not a scribal palette yet. Kind of. I'm very annoyed about the model cucumber. It went viral, like, everywhere. I was seeing this literally everywhere where people were making fun of the model cucumber, and I'm like, it's literally just a cucumber. It's just so simple. If the ancient, I actually made a TikTok video, and I wish it had gone, like, super viral, but it was so embarrassing, and I remember I showed it to my dad, and he laughed, so I was like, I appreciate this. I literally made a video about saying if the Egyptians could, they would, and pretty much showed a lot of phallic ancient Egyptian art with, like, covering certain parts, just telling about it, like, if they wanted it to be it, they would have. This is literally just a cucumber. Little do you know, it's not really a cucumber. If I remember, I'll show you that. I'll go find the TikTok video and show you guys, because I laughed. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, it's models are just really, really common in ancient Egypt. As per this, it's another model of a scribal palette. I think this is really tiny. I have to look at the measurements. Oh, it is really tiny. Look how this is so tiny. This has to be like this big or something. See how big the writing is? I gotta look at the measurements. What's the measurements on this? It is 5.5 by 6 centimeters. So it's 2 and 3/16 and 2 and 3/8 inches. It's like, I don't have a ruler with me. Do I have a ruler? I don't know. It's so small. This thing is so tiny. So it's a tiny, tiny little scribal palette and a tiny little tablet, like, that you would write on and stuff. Yeah, it's so small and cute. It is. So where was this found? I know they're talking about, this is talking about the model that I was going to show you guys again. Let me, I know exactly which one they're talking about in this one. Yeah, this one. So I showed a picture of this in the lecture, but these are models. Again, these are supposed to come alive, and so this is supposed to be a granary, and they are dumping baskets of grain into these areas, and then they have 4 scribes sitting over here and making notes, and so you can see the little scribal palettes. So apparently that one that I took that I included is not part of this collection, but obviously these are the exact same things. They are tiny mini scribal palettes, and I particularly love, I mean, there's so many different angles of, like, these rooms. This was an absolutely amazing tomb. I could talk about this tomb for literally ever because of the amount of models that were found in here, but, like, this photo is my favorite. Like, I love these little dudes. They're just so cute, and I just love, like, some of the models you see are really bad, like the little figures are carved so poorly, but, like, that they even decided to include him in this pose, like, with his knee to the side, is just, like, amazing to me. And so this is how it was actually found. So it did have little remnants of actual like grain in there. These are some of the historical. I love these. Like, come on. I might be able to hit you up on that one. Scrolling down, I gotta find all the rest of them. They're usually. So here's a model of a porch and a garden in ancient Egypt with like the full, beautiful columns and everything, and a pool. Like this is this is like one of the most beautiful ones like you'll ever see. And this is all coming from one tomb from Meketra. Meketra was super rich. Playmobil, exactly. They do look like little Playmobil, and I love Playmobil. So then I wanted to see if I could find. Oh, gallery. If I go gallery 105, I can see the list of everything that's in here. I can't remember. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. No, I can't. Go back. These are amazing. So Meketra also had like, I don't know, 8 boats maybe? They have so many boats. So this is Meketra. So see here, but this is actually not Meketra. This is a statue of Meketra, which is like crazy. And I think this one is too. Because if you see, there's that little stand. That means it's not a real person. That's not a person sitting on a chair. That is a statue of Meketra going to the afterlife. Most likely. And I think that guy may be the same. He might be Meketra as well or something. But yeah, like, look, they're fishing. Like, I need to find the other ones. This was also found in there. This is state figure. I did a TikTok about this one too. Oh, there's an ad. Well, let's look at the photo. Yeah, so there he is again. I want to see... I'm trying to see if there's a brewery. Met collection. Boat. Oh, lots of... Oh my god. I just want the models. I don't need all of this relief pieces. I know there are more models. Why are they hiding them from me? The ad over? Yeah. This is the problem with the Met, is that they have so many stuff that's just never on display, but they actually do have pictures rather than it being... Yeah, see, I was trying to see if there's a brewery, but I don't think there is. There's a stable. Look at the little cows. They're so chunky. Oh, I do need a libation. Thank you. The little cows are so chunky. And if you like cows... Oh no, this is the bakery. So there's no brewery, but there's a bakery. But like, look at their little hands. They're colored like their hands are in dough. The Ka and the Ba, yeah. It's kind of a Ka statue. But like, look at the little hands. Look at the little hands. I mean, come on. And the little freaking oven. I could talk about these guys literally forever. But yeah, there's a bakery, which is very close to a brewery because for anybody who didn't know, the way that they made beer in ancient Egypt was they took pretty much raw bread dough and just added water and fermented it, and that was the beer. In a way, yes. Not really, but in a way. I love how they do these little window shots. Sometimes. There are some instances when, like, I'm trying to think. I don't think in this instance, but I feel like there is kind of this. Why is this not in Origins? Because it's Middle Kingdom. Origins is about at least 1,000 years later. You do need yeast for both, it is true. But, yeah. Oh no! I didn't want to close that. Dang it! I just wanted to see if there's any more, but I have a feeling that's the last one. So it was a bakery, There was the cows. There was the... Well, actually, you know what? I think there is another one, but I don't think it's at the Met. I think it's in Egypt. Oh, you know what? I know which one it is. I know which one's not at the Met. The one not at the Met is this one, which is arguably like one of the best ones. Oh, look! This website has a ton of more. Oh my god. There's a weaving shop, a carpentry shop. Here's the big... So there's two of these... Okay. There's a weaving shop, a carpentry shop, and then this is what it looked like. This is what the tomb looked like, which was just wild. So these are estate figures, essentially meaning that like an estate is donating all of this. So the Met has this one. Egypt has this one with the bread cones. We have the one filled with legs of meat. But this arguably is the best one, which there's a better photo of. It's essentially a giant... It's Meketra sitting here with all of these scribes, and they're counting cattle. Is that the little bread one? Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't a brewery. Oh, I remember this. This is a meat place. A meat place. I can't speak right now. Oh, there's the weaving. Oh my god, I've never seen the weaving one because it's not in the Met. They did have, well, yes, they did kind of have spiral, but it's more conical. It's in a cone. It's in a little cone shape. Yeah, so this is a slaughterhouse. So they have a slaughterhouse. That's the bakery. I guess I don't have a brewery, but like, look at the carpentry. Look at the giant saw. I'm like shook. I've never seen these other two because they're just, I've only been to the Met. Probably. They were probably too sloshed to make a model. Or they probably thought that the beer that they would have left in the tomb was like equivalent, or they would have said the bakery is a brewery as well. They are very cool. Well, I'm gonna have to do a bigger video about him. Maybe I will add that to my... Can somebody go to my Discord and go to lecture requests and just write Meketra? I can write that down. Meketra's tomb. Somebody could go write that down so I can remember it. Because I can do some videos about it, or I can do a lecture about it. Because, yeah, absolutely. Scribes were super important for that. Absolutely. But yeah, so I don't know where this one is. Oh, okay, so this one was excavated. It was excavated in Pit 26 of at the court of Mentuhotep II in the Middle Kingdom. So it was acquired in they excavated it in 1922. So it must have come with a little figurine as well, but we just maybe don't have it as well. Chemistry or metallurgy labs? I do not know. That is a thing I do not know. Here is another one. You can see this one, they actually drilled. They must have drilled like a hole, but you can see it cracked because they didn't have to take out any portion of it, but this just has like a huge lump of like black cake. Thank you, Acornica. This one just has a huge lump of black ink. It doesn't have any red on it at all. Very, very simple. But it also comes with the reeds, which makes me think that it's been excavated. Yeah, covered in the debris of the forecourt of a tomb in Thebes. The wooden palette with an unused cake of black ink, 3 reed brushes, and several sheets of papyrus, and a string to bind the papyrus. Oh, very cool. And a linen cloth that had been wrapped around the entire set. Super cool. That's really awesome, actually. It dates to the late period. That's so weird because it looks just like that one from the Ramesside period. I wonder if they're dating to the late period because it was found in the rubbish. Seeing they're saying forecourt rubbish, which means that it's probably the stuff at the very top layer of excavating. But found in tomb MMA 804. Excavated 1913 to 1914. But you can see it's kind of one of those things that people always get like peeved that that museums like this have objects that are Egyptian and everything. But one, this was
given to Egypt in the way that that the modern Egyptians were separating antiquities at the time, but also they're giving them the crappy stuff. Not saying them to be mean, but like Egypt doesn't really want this. They probably have way better Scribal palettes. You know what? They would probably like the one for Princess Marinakin. Like they would probably like that one, but like it's a late period one. It's not the best looking one you'll ever see. Gotcha. This one, unfortunately, this is the only photo they have, and it has no description. It says it's from the Ptolemaic period. Purchased in 1923. Said to be from Fayum. So, nothing else about that. So those are all the ones from the Met. We still have so many tabs to go, but we're going to go through these much quicker. We got the MFA in Boston one. Very simple, super tiny little ink cake holes. Looks like it's never been used. TBH. Retain no obvious traces of pigment. There is a small cartouche of King Ramses II incised on the side. Well, there we go. That's very interesting. I would assume that means it's some sort of model, maybe given by the king to somebody, because that's very weird to have a cartouche of the king but never be used. So it wouldn't be for a king's scribe. So this looks like somebody essentially purchased it in 1830 and passed it down through his family and then sold it. And then it was given in 1872 to the MFA, which is really early. I forget how old some of these museums are sometimes. It's also very true. I really would have loved to do a thesis about toys, and my professor almost kind of laughed me off because, again, it is hard. It's hard to figure out what is a toy and what is a not, and what is a model and what is not. It's very hard to kind of get that nuanced, especially when a lot of these objects that are in museums are not being excavated with the proper context. So I can understand why she did, but it annoys me because sometimes I think about that all the time. So here's another one that looks like it's barely been used. It has 4 holes, but 2 holes, which is also weird. Oh, but it's got a little text right there. I wish I could zoom into these photos, but they don't really let you. MFA, so if anybody didn't know, I was actually going to say this when before when we watched the video that I made. If you notice, a lot of the images that were in the video are also in the PowerPoint presentation. It is because many of these museums have copyrights on all the photos of all the objects, except the MFA. Everything on the MFA is copyright free. So I was pretty much only allowed to take images from the Met about scribes and Scribal palettes and other things for that video because we wouldn't get copyright struck. So if anybody wants any images, go to the Met. That's the only place that I ever go and get photos of anything well, that's a lie. Anything that is going to make money and anything that they might attack me for. Was there a conception of time before the gods and the pharaohs? Not really before the gods. The ancient Egyptians believed that the entire world was Noon. I was about to say Newt, and I was like, no, she's the sky goddess. They believed everything was Noon. Noon is essentially this goddess of the primordial waters. They believed everything was the primordial waters. And then with all their variety of, there's also a variety of the creation myths about what created it and everything, but everything usually kind of forms of the primordial waters, and then a mound comes up, and that's where life kind of begins. So it's not necessarily removable, but essentially that was how they created this really thin slot to go inside of it, is that they had to remove this whole piece and carve underneath, and then they had to reinsert this piece. The big thing that I noticed with the Scribal palette that I studied is that it doesn't have that on the top. It actually has it on the side, which is so unique, and I've literally only found one other example that has that, which I'm going to show you guys. But a lot of these have this huge removable piece, and then how they were able to carve the whole thing. So how would one make a toy of the primordial waters and noon? Literally just a giant ocean and then a little mound in the middle when it comes up. So again, or what time period was this one? New Kingdom. Oh, okay. Incised inscription names the owner as the royal draftsman of the Lord of the Two Lands, Amenawea. So he's a draftsman. He's a royal draftsman of the Lord of the Two Lands, being the king. So this is actually a pretty good one. It doesn't look like it's used, which makes me think it might have been a gift from the king or something. Yes, so you literally take the whole thing with you, and all your pens are all in one piece together, and then you can essentially hold this with one hand, take the pen out, and dip it as you're writing, which I'm literally writing with the wrong hand that I write with. But yeah, it is literally a transportable pen holder. But it's weird because you find a lot of them break because of the way that they had to carve these to get in the piece and such. This one's also New Kingdom. They actually have a separate image which I'm assuming is something that you would have ground up like charcoal to make ink out of it. This one has 3 reed pens. Oh, it's the same dude. That same dude who had the other one. This first one, Robert Hay, the Robert Hay collection. Maybe he really likes Scribal Palettes. So some lady got it. I thought most of these would be excavated. I expected a lot of these to actually be excavated, but it doesn't look like a lot of them are. So this is another model, but it is in such bad condition. I'm wondering what this is made of. It's made out of travertine again. So travertine just seems to be very fragile. But this has a huge amount of text that we are missing, but you can see here one of the shens for one of the circles, and then you can see all of the lines that are supposed to be the reed pens. So remnants of the top scene show a mummiform funerary god Osiris with the label Osiris Great God. Yeah, there he is. Osiris Great God. Weser, no, Netcher. Osiris, the Great God. The right portion is the god Ptah. Would have included a depiction of the owner. His name is Hui. The text is clearly an offering formula request for the deceased of Hui. True to its mimicking of functional Scribal palettes, the model would have originally had 2 circular inkwells. Indicate that these depressions were surrounded by the Shen hieroglyph, a circular rope similar to a cartouche, which was also used on some palettes to border inkwells. Also in the Robert Hay collection. Robert Hay apparently really liked Scribal palettes. And then this dates from the New Kingdom. So yeah, I'm surprised that this is all supposed to just be a offering formula. Like, we can see this as an offering formula, but like it looks like a lot of text to be all just an offering formula. I'm wondering if it may be a little biographical. And then we got a super simple one, but you can tell this has been used because look at the color differentiation between these two. And this is interesting. So they didn't do that process. They like hollowed out the inside. I don't know how they did that. Oh, is this Old Kingdom? Weirdly, it doesn't say what date this is, but it says it found in Giza, and it gives an actual tomb number. So this must be an Old Kingdom Scribal palette. This might be one of the oldest ones I've seen. Tomb G2347C. I could look that up on the Giza project, or Giza, whatever it's called. The Giza project at Harvard. Excavated it in 1933. Very cool. Those are all the ones at the MFA in Boston. I just picked a few of these museums that I knew I would find. Oh, this is a reproduction. Wait, is this real? Oh no, this is real. I suddenly thought this was a fake. So these are those other palettes that are really old. And this makes sense because this is all from the University College London Flinders Petrie Museum. Petrie Museum of Egyptian Art and Archaeology. Flinders Petrie excavated a lot of really early pre-dynastic and early Old Kingdom stuff, so it makes sense that one of the earliest things that we have, earliest versions of these little palettes, comes from his excavation. It's made out of grey-wacky. It's a type of stone. It is actually a stone that is all underneath modern-day New York City. For fun facts, dates to the First Dynasty. It has 2 holes on the other end so that it can be held with that piece of thread from the image I showed you guys of what one of these old Scribal palettes, Scribal kits would have looked like. And here's the second one, also from the First Dynasty. They actually don't say where they're from, but it's in his book. You can actually see it. They cite where it actually is, so they know where it's coming from. So this is the only Scribal palette that I think has this side flap cut. It's in horrible condition. This one is absolutely eaten up by bugs, but it is the only one that I have seen that has this kind of side situation, just like the one at Memphis. This dates to the 11th dynasty, so just a little bit earlier than the University of Memphis one. And on the back, it actually has very faintly some hieratic, which says, Antef says, which means it was owned by a guy named Antef, which is pretty cool. I love that. But it's very, very friable, which is a word we use for wooden objects that are about to like totally crumble. But yeah, this is definitely the closest one that I have found to the one in Memphis, because it also is shorter than a lot of them. A lot of the ones we're seeing are very long, like this one. These photos are awful. It looks like this actually has a yellow ink pad as well. This one's 18th dynasty, 3 vertical containing orange, yellow, and blue pigment. Interesting. I was gonna say this looks like black, red, and yellow, but okay. Again, it has like the rectangular section removed. It looks like something saying Nebeta is inscribed on the left of the upper opening. Cool. This one is chunky, which makes me laugh because it's so thick. You can tell that the reason they made it so thick is to make a slot. So they made it like double the thickness of most of these palettes just so they can make the slot like super easy. It actually has a hole, so you can actually connect it to like a piece of cloth or something. Oh, this cover is made separately and attached with 8 dowels, and it is the length of a Roman foot. So this comes from the Roman period. So this is more in proportion with the Roman objects and Roman standardization. This one definitely might have been a painter's palette because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's very thin. 6 pans for colors still containing traces of red and black. Oh, it has a side slit too. Oh, inscribed on the slope with a reed opening, for the ka of the praiser of the name of his god, the king, the great administrator of the lord of the both lands. Hui! Another hui. Badly cracked in the middle. Found in a tomb in Gurab. It's dating to the 18th dynasty. Yeah, actually that one apparently also has a side slit, but it is way longer than either of the other 2. And the last one from UCL is another one with the black and red. This also has some inscriptions. Let's see what it says. Scribes wooden palette with sliding lid over the brush reed space, 2 small square pans. Inscribed is Hair Chef, King of North and South. And on the back it says head and shoulder of a lion. Oh no, wait. Oh, it has a whole image. So there's a lion up here. There's a god. It's got the head and shoulder of a lion with a full figure of Hershef, the guy, the scribe, saying, chapter of praising the Ka, Hershef, king of sand, north, lord of Tet Tet. That is so weird. Why is he calling himself a god? Or a king? That is so odd. Huh. 19th dynasty, found in Gurab tomb. I might have, that one's so interesting. I might have to look that up later. Oh, alright. I'm gonna crank through these. Unfortunately, I can't click any of these to be larger. We've moved on to the Brooklyn Museum. Let me know if I'm boring any of you. I think you all are leaving and going to sleep, and that's fine. We got an ivory one from the late 18th dynasty, particularly long, no reeds. We got a really, really sad, crappy looking one. Oh, but it has an inscription. Just these really tiny little holes, though. Ooh, it's very bad. On the front, in hieratic, scribbled notes include dimensions and quantities of grain. On the back, 2 spans in width, 260 a granary, 200 hakat, a grain measure. So he's taking notes. Taking notes on the actual piece. That's funny. Ooh, this one's got some writing on it as well. I didn't realize a lot of these had writing on them. It's pretty great. This one, 4 pens in the pen holder, 6 lines of hieratic on front, several on the back. On the front, in hieratic, scribbled notes including the dimensions and quantities of grain. Dimensions are such that it might have may have been a ruler as well. So it's got some little notes. Most of these are just not on view, which is sad. We got a really big fragmentary, only 1/2 of this one survived. But it is with ivory. And it was excavated. Sawama. Sawama? I've never really heard that place. I'll look that place up. Then we got a model. Lots of models. This is made out of faience, which I've very rarely seen. Unfortunately, it's all in black and white, but a faience model is very rare. Another one from the late New Kingdom. Doesn't look like there's any inscription on this. You can see that a lot of them are very bowed, and I think that might be because it'll hold the ink better. This one is pretty bad. Oh, this is 5th century, or this is like the late period. But I think the piece fell out to like save the reed pens. Another really sad one from the late period. Yeah, very much so. Another late period one. Apparently these all are coming from like this one family. This one seems to have an inscription. Funny enough, that doesn't look like Egyptian, but... Oh, inscriptions. Bach en Perjet, servant of the House of Eternity. Oh, a servant of the House of Eternity. Oh, I actually know what that one is. A servant for the House of Eternity is a person from Deir el-Medina. I'm 99% sure. If you lived in Deir el-Medina, which is this, again, planned community of people that were meant to go out and create and decorate the tombs of the pharaohs in the Valley of the Kings. Their town was called Perjet, the House of Eternity. I think that's correct. I might have to look that one up, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Now we do move on to the illustrious British Museum. We don't like it, but they do have good shit. So, including this one, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 little holes for ink. We're gonna actually look at this one. We can look at this one next, but I mean, this is
a masterpiece, and it has a huge inscription here and 2 huge inscriptions here. These look like offering formulas. Hetepti Nesu Amun, which I haven't seen a lot of ones to Amun, but what's this guy's name? Funny enough, the scribe glyph isn't actually here. Merena. Oh yeah, Mary Ra. Mary Ra is this guy's name. No, these would have been made. I mean, these were used, so these were being made for actual people. So this is for a guy named Mary Ra. You put Ra in front of it because it's the name of a god. You're right, this might be for more of a painter. So this says, example is unusual, but by no means unique, having more than 2 ink pads. One would expect that 14 hollows here held different colors. This palette, however, has traces of only black and red around the four lowest rels. Oh yeah, you see black and red. On the right side in the pen slot, where the predominance of black at the top and red at the bottom suggests that 2 ends of a single pen were used for the 2 colors, and the pens were replaced in this. Oh my god, this is so specific. This is when you know that people at the British Museum have too much time in their hands. So they're talking about these lines. So they're saying that one reed pen was black on one side and red on the other side, and they would keep shoving it into this pen slot and make these lines. Yeah. It's like wild. Were placed in the slot with more frequency, used black tip towards the top. That's wild. So it was making all these little markings here. Tutmos is the 4th's name, appears in the cartouche above the palette. Right here. Along the sides with his name and title are funerary prayers addressing the dynastic god Amun and to Thoth, the god of writing. Oh, is Thoth on here? Oh my god, Thoth! I haven't seen an offering formula to Thoth, and I've never seen that before. I don't know what any of his epithets are. I've never seen an offering formula to Thoth. But he's the god of writing and patron of scribes, which I can't believe I forgot to talk about in this lecture. These are inscribed as the bottom line tells you, by Merena's own scribe. Apparently comes from Saqqara, but I'm sure this was just randomly purchased. I can't believe this is not on display. Oh, it's toured around though. It's been in a lot of different exhibits, which is pretty cool. Purchased through Christie's in 1848. This is a pretty cool one. I'm gonna sneeze again. Maybe not. No, I am. Oh. Whoa, that was a deep one. Okay, let's move on. Here we have another model. This is made out of something weird. What is this made out of? Is it made out of Egyptian blue? It's made out of Egyptian blue. That's wild. Thank you. Yes, so this is what they would use to write. This one not, because this is a model, but yes, they recorded everything. They literally were pretty much every industry needed at least one scribe just to keep administrative records. And you could essentially like make bank being a scribe. Scribes were a very high position, very, very rare in the world. At the very beginning, Paranoid, we talked about literacy in Egypt, and at its maximum, nobody has ever estimated that more than 15% of the Egyptian population has ever been literate, but the estimations are definitely closer to 1 to 5% in certain time periods. 15 is a really high number that is probably inaccurate for certain instances. So this is apparently made out of Egyptian blue, which is this weird material that the ancient Egyptians invented, but then it has glass and carnelian inlays. We got Osiris here. But who is this? I want to know who's it inscribed to. Oh, Mererti, another person. Again, just like randomly purchased by somebody and then donated to the museum, which is pretty common for the British Museum. It is very pretty. It's just very weird. Egyptian blue is usually used to decorate or to paint. I've never seen something made out of Egyptian blue, which is just weird. Here are some of the simpler ones. You can see this one has a very distinctive curve, and I think that would have been to hold the yes, but scribes would be the only people who are mainly literate. Nobody else would read. Like, we can presume that the pharaohs would be a little bit illiterate, and maybe their family members who weren't scribes would be a little bit literate, but scribes were the master people. They were the people who were full literate, as full as they possibly could be. So there is some things obviously that you don't need to be full literacy, but majority of scribes would be full, or as full as it could be back then. This one looks like it has an inscription, but it says a hieratic, but I don't know if they'll tell us what it says. Sotheby's sale. The palette was found in association with a razor and a leather case, also with another writing board and other instruments acquired in a certain sale. But it does not say the but see, you can see how the slot comes out though. And you can see, and there's another inscription. This says Weser. This says Osiris, born of something. What does that say? I want to know. I want to know what that says. But then you can see there's some writing here of hieratic or something. And even something up there. It does not say. No. Not that I can think of. I'm sure that we know that there are letters that have been passed. Like we know that, so there's these things called the Amarna letters, which are these letters that are on cuneiform tablets, and they were sent to, they were found in Egypt, but they're written in cuneiform. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there was a postal system. It essentially means that somebody brought the letters to him. Which technically, yes, at the simplest is a postal system, but he's the king, so it's not the same, kind of. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm fading fast. Here's another one. Very simple. What time period? This one doesn't say. I'm so surprised. The British Museum's website doesn't say what time period they come from, which is wild. I've never noticed that before. Now this one's a fancy one. This is ivory, and it's got a really long inscription on it. Looks very well used. Is not inscribed by hieratic jottings in black ink, cover much of the lower half of the upper surface. The reverse side bears further hieratic inked text with references to measurements and records of sacks of grain being used. So these are guys literally just taking notes. This is 18th dynasty. From Thebes, supposedly. And here's two of them side by side. Ooh, look at that one. That one has a cartouche. Thank you so much, MelissainDeNile, for the follow. Welcome. Male pigeons, maybe. This says... Do I have this one? Am I going to look at this one next? Hopefully. Oh wow, look at this one. This one's amazing. M. Weser. That's supposed to be an N? What date is this? 13th dynasty in Middle Kingdom. Oh my god, that's supposed to be a water sign. I think. Weser NF Sa F Sesh Seshu Amun Amuni That's what that says. Hetepti Nisu. Oh, Sobek. Sebek. Oh, what does that mean? That means Heka Nesu. Ooh, I'm suffering. The ka of. So that's what. So the end of that would definitely be it definitely says the ka of, and then it would say the name of the person at the bottom. This is a very interesting little phrase. Interesting. Name of Ameni inscribed in cavity. Oh yeah, Ameni. Amuni, Ameni. Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, okay, here we go. Center being, oh, okay, I got this. Being the son, being what his son Ameni, the superintendent of canals, made for him, an offering in which the god gives Sobek Ra, lord of Sumunu, that he may give the sweet breath of the life of the Ka of. So this isn't for Ameni. This is for being what his son Ameni made for him. This is Ameni giving something to his father that is an unnamed father. Ameni made this for his father, but we don't know his name. His name is lost. It should be down here. Interesting. I love that. That's a really cool one. Very interesting. I've never seen one like that where it's totally broken at the bottom, but it looks really cool. Here's a really nice one. Ooh, these photos too. Oh my goodness. Neferkare. Crap, who is that? Wait, I can look it up. Oh, there's an ad break. I'm looking up something. I'm trying to figure out if I can figure out this guy's name before. The thing is that this is a throne name, so many people might have the same throne name. 3-5. Does that mean Dynasty 3? Wait a second. Dynasty 3, number 5. Oh, Neferkare. Yeah. So that's a Dynasty 3 king, if that's the one we're talking about. 6 Dynasty. Oh, it actually tells me what dynasty that is. So I think there must be another king in that dynasty that has the same name. Yeah. Oh, it's Pepi II! See, all pharaohs had multiple different names. So each pharaoh had lots of different names. A reference, yeah. If you go to, okay, this is gonna be a very convoluted answer. Actually, no, wait, I have. Does that still work? If you go to the first link in that is a Google Drive with lots of resources, mostly about hieroglyphs. So there's one in there called a Middle Egyptian Dictionary, and that's a pretty good one. And then I think I even included, well, I'll click the link. Alan, Middle Egyptian, is pretty good, and Hawk is what I learned through. But Faulkner's Concise Egyptian Dictionary and Gardner's Sign List are the best. The Gardner's Sign List is the best thing to look at all the different glyphs. That's the best. So you can use anything in there. So yeah, every different pharaoh would have multiple names. I wonder if this book explains it. I feel like they should. Throughout most of pharaonic history, kings of Egypt had 5 official names. The most commonly used of these were the Horus name, which is indicated by the image of a falcon, the prenomen, which is usually indicated with the word Nesu, which it means king, or the what is it called? Nesu Biti, which is Lord of the Two Land, or King of Upper and King of Lower Egypt. Nesu Biti is what it's called. And then the nomen, which is indicated by an image of a goose, and then the circle of Re, which means son of Re. So traditionally a Horus name was written in a serif, which is this particularly square shape, and then everything else was written in a cartouche. And so this would have been his prenomen. So his prenomen, and his throne name is kind of one of the, I think his throne name is the same thing as a prenomen. So Neferkare Pepi II, his prenomen is Neferkare, which is what you see here in this. Neferkare. Ray always gets thrown to the front because it's a god's name and it's more important. And then his, what is that? I can't think of what his Horus name stands for. It's Nefer. I don't know what the middle glyph is, so I can't tell what that one is. But then when you look at his nomen, it is Pepi. So two P's in a row and then a Y, and it literally just says Pepi. And then one of these says Pepi. One of them actually has a combination. It actually says Pepi, and then it says Neferkare. So it has the full name in one cartouche. But yeah, so this is essentially just his prenomen. So a lot of kings had multiple prenomens, but they would have their own individual nomen. Obviously, but minus all the kings that we have the same nomen for, Ramses and all that. But yeah, this is cool. So this says, oh, no way. So this says, keeper of the domain of the pyramid of Neferkare Menonk, the judge and administrator, the superintendent of the granaries, Shemaba, his eldest son, the deputy in charge of the granaries, the superintendent of the scribes, and the king's granaries, Ba-Nefer. Oh, Ba-Nefer. And you can see that's so cool. He's actually holding a Scribal Palette. This is really old. This is Old Kingdom, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's like the coolest one I found. Yeah, he's pretty important. Absolutely. Judge and administrator, the superintendent of the granaries. Superintendent of the granaries is a really big job to make sure you have enough grain to give your people, because remember, this is not a money society. They are using only barter system. People get paid with food. If the granaries are empty, everyone's screwed, pretty much. So this guy's really important. That's very, very cool. Shemaba. So yeah, I think it's this is so hard because I think the person is Ba-Nefer that this is for, but his Shemaba I think is his son who made it for him. I think. Also, the inscription is just like beautiful. And actually, is this a slide slot? It sort of is. I don't think it is totally, but it's really cool. Yeah, this is a great guy. Ooh, look at this one. I see a cartouche. So surprisingly, this looks like a model one because it's got the shen, but it does have reeds in it, and I think it's made out of wood, so it just might be a special one. I really want to look this up, but I'm so tired. Amenhotep III. So this is New Kingdom. This is Tutankhamun's grandfather. I don't know, and that's why it's interesting that some of those just have the giant ink cakes that are just like big and long, but like I think you could be able to get away with a good amount, and I'm sure that you just kept having to just make more ink cakes, or you just had a whole pile of them with you. But they're like watercolors is the best way that I can describe them. Like if you've ever had one of those dry watercolor palettes and you just have to wet it, like those do last for a while, even if they're kind of small. But I'm sure you had to do it a couple different times. But yeah, so we got Amenhotep III's name at the top, and we have the name Scribe Permeehu. May he live, I think is what that says at the bottom. Yeah, titles and epithets include scribes. Listing other objects at Permeehu's tomb in Saqqara. Cool beans. We're almost to the end of these. This one has actually a lot of inscriptions, but the picture is horrible! Contains 5 reed pens. Yeah, and it says it has hieroglyphic inscriptions, but... Oh, and Ramses II's named in it, but the picture is horrible, so you can't read it. Yeah, it's possible. You might have carried something like a sponge to kind of wet it or something. Oh, here's that other one I was looking at. So this is a cartouche. So this is Neb. What is that symbol? See, I do now. I want to look this one up because it's a lion's head, so I feel like that should be simpler for me to find. The way that you find it in this book is in the back. They have a list of all of the glyphs that are in each of these names. So if I go to the section of animal body parts, mammal parts, I should find. So that, but then of course I'm like, I have to find 19S3. Let's try that one. 19th dynasty. Whoa, there are a lot of names for Oh, this is Ramses II. I freaking know it is. Why did I even bother? Is this Ramses II? I don't think it is, actually. Who is it? Oh, it's Ahmose. Ahmose is before Ramses? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. So I don't know how to say it because I can't remember what the lion's head sound is. But you would say Ray last. So it's Neb. Well, actually, it probably says here. Nebpeti Ray. Nebpeti Ray. So, son of Ra Ahmose. So this is. Oh, I'm dumb. It's right here. It's his prenomen. Nebpeti Ray, Dynasty 18, first pharaoh of Dynasty 18. This is cool. I never really see stuff with him either. 2 of the pens have traces. The black and red ink on it. A hieratic note on the underside of the palette reads, 3rd month of summer. 18th dynasty. Very simple one, and you can see even though this answers your question, Akronika. Even though the thing is so small, they've literally just painted the whole thing black. And the whole thing red all around it, so it doesn't really seem like it has to stay inside of the little hole. Oh, did this one get like repaired or something? Why do they have all these specialty photos? See how some things have no photos and then some things have everything? It's how it's stored. Interesting. Doesn't even tell you what time period it is. Oh, there are apparently 2 vertical Sets of text? Not on this side. It's empty. Alright, 2 more. Here's a model one. Oh, this is a nice one. So, Hetep Dinisu Thoth, Jehudi, Lord of whatever, because I don't know any of his epithets. Hetep Dinisu Weser, Netcher, Neb, I don't know what that epithet is. This one I recognize, but I can't remember. Offerings of cattle, beer, pear, parem, all things good. That is so interesting. So this is a model of a Scribal palette, but there are no names on it. This was never dedicated to someone. Interesting. See, this makes me think that some of these were mass-produced and ready and waiting for anybody who wants to, like, get one. But that just doesn't seem possible with how small this field was in Egypt. But also it's the 18th dynasty, and I feel like they did that. I feel like they did way more mass producing of stuff. Alright, this is the last one, which is a wild one because it is kind of also an artist palette in the same time. But it has a ton of stuff going on right here. There's like a tiny little inscription here. So we got 9 oval inkwells with 2 longer and narrow inkwells in one corner. Red, yellow, and black pigments. Column of inscription says outline draftsman, but the name of the vigil has been erased other than the male determinative, so we can't read what the actual name is and stuff. Yeah, it literally looks like one. Nobody purchased it. Nobody wrote their name in. Like, because you would have had the craftsman who would have made it would have had to, you would come to them and say, I need one, and then they would, and they did this with coffins. Like, they would mass produce coffins and then they would leave spaces for the names, and then you could go and buy one, and it would kind of be cheaper probably than buying like a custom made coffin pretty much. But I've just never seen it done with Scribal palettes, model Scribal palettes. So yeah, the guy's name isn't here because it seems to have been erased. Beneath the pencil slot, this says the outline draftsman Min Noct True of Voice. True of Voice means he's dead. Any fun facts? Beneath, in thick black strokes, 3 signs are roughly drawn: a falcon head wearing the sun disk and the uraeus, and 2 examples of a disk and crescent. The top left corner bears an incised inscription on the thickness of the palette, wrapped around the corner, Amun Ra and Ptah, Lord of Ma'at. Oh, and this has a side slot too! I found a new side slot one. Actually, this is way better than the other one too. It's amazing. It's pretty cool. Alright, I think that's the last one, because the other one I was going to show you is the fake one. I thought it was real, and this is a fake one. For anyone who wasn't here earlier, this is what an original Scribal palette kit or scribe's kit would have looked like. I thought this was a real piece. It apparently is a replica based off of the images we have of what this looked like. This we have. I showed you 2 of these from University College London's collection. But essentially you would wear this like over your shoulder. So this was the pen holder. So presumably it's hollow, and you would wear that on your back like a quiver, and then this you would wear on the front of your chest, and you kind of wear it over your shoulder. But yeah, I found out this is fake. It's not even a replica of actually something. Yeah, made in the 20th century. But I don't think it's a replica of anything specific. I'm trying to see if I had anything else on these. No, because these are just all the images that we just went through. So that's it.
bye.